Chapter 181, Item, Time Reset Special Item Quantity, 1 Attributes, a one-time temporal item. The user can reset a specific attribute on their own body or a target's body. After activating the item, that target attribute will be regenerated. Remarks: a rare item with the ability to rewind time. Shen Xingyan looked at the attributes of the item in his hand, which resembled a brain, and his eyes suddenly lit up. He began to ponder. As expected, the item's attributes are related to time, just like its name. The description says it can reset a certain attribute of the body. Does that mean I can reset my farmer profession to another profession? After all, the farmer profession is also a type of body attribute. The moment he saw this description, Shen Xingyan immediately thought of the painful origin of his awakening. Thinking this, he directly opened his attribute panel and focused his gaze on the farmer profession attribute, tentatively thinking of resetting the profession. However, as soon as this thought appeared, he found that the brain in his hand actually responded. Do you want to reset your farmer profession attribute, changing it to another profession? Upon seeing this prompt, Shen Xingyan quickly clicked no. He had only been testing the idea just now, but he hadn't expected it would actually suggest resetting the profession skill. This item is a bit too miraculous, isn't it? It can actually reset any attribute on the attribute panel. If I reset my farmer profession, my profession skills will probably change as well. It's hard to say what kind of skills will appear then. It's better not to act impulsively. After all, this item only resets, it doesn't enhance. If it were in the past, with such an opportunity to reselect my life path, I would definitely choose to use it to try for a combat professional. But now, my profession is much stronger than those combat professionists. There's absolutely no need to use it. However, from this perspective, the value of this item is very great. If it were on the market, its value would probably be even higher than a talent stone. The recent use of the item also confirmed one thing. If I'm dissatisfied with any of my own attributes, I can directly reset them. This item's function is still very powerful. Shen Xingyan looked at the brain in his hand and nodded with some satisfaction. Then he began to carefully check his attribute panel. He directly skipped the profession skills, talent skills, and those fixed attributes. None of them needed to be reset. His 2 major skills were already perfect and didn't need any unexpected changes. As for the fixed attribute values, there was even less need for adjustment. Then he shifted his gaze to the several skills: equilibrium force, teleportation, insight, clone technique. These skills could all be reset to gamble for a more superior skill, but he thought about it and felt there was no need to waste such a precious item specifically for this. After much thought, Shen Xingyan's gaze fell on the level column. Can I directly reset my level? Maybe with the blessing of my luck attribute, I can directly raise my profession level to the advanced professional stage without any effort. That would be wonderful. Shen Xingyan's eyes suddenly lit up, and as he thought this, he began to experiment with the item in his hand. Do you want to reset your profession level attribute, changing it to level 1? As Shen Xingyan's thought appeared, the time reset item gave him this feedback. Seeing this, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but gasp, so frightened that he quickly clicked no. That was close. I didn't expect this time reset item to be such a big killer. Resetting the level can directly reset an enemy to level 1, and then attributes related to level would definitely decrease as well. Just imagine all those years of hard-earned leveling going down the drain. How cruel would that be? Shen Xingyan thought with lingering fear, feeling that it truly lived up to its name as a special temporal item. Seeing that there was temporarily no place to use his own attributes, he could only slowly put it away, saving it for later use. Then he focused his attention on the experience point column in the attribute panel. Looking at the upgrade prompt, he gently exhaled and directly clicked to upgrade. Congratulations, your profession level has increased to level 20. You are rewarded with all attributes +2, free attribute points +4, profession skill cooldown -2%. We hope you continue to work hard and improve. along with the appearance of the Star Origin World Upgrade prompt. A familiar sense of comfort, once again, swept over Shen Xingyan, and his profession level also increased to level 20. After casually adding the 4 rewarded free attribute points to his primordial energy, Shen Xingyan smiled contentedly and carefully examined his refreshed Star Origin World Attribute Panel name. Xinghuo Lai Aoyuan Shen Xingyan ID 118,120,431 to 9527 Profession Farmer Profession Skill 1. Consumes a certain amount of primordial energy points to increase the growth progress of crop within a specified range by plus 10%. The larger the range, the more primordial energy points consumed. Interval, 10 hours. Skill cooldown, 24 hours minus 29%, 2. Unactivated state, can be activated equilibrium force level 8. Passive, 4 fixed attributes plus 8. Active, consumes 16 primordial energy points to activate equilibrium force, temporarily transferring 16 attribute points to a designated attribute. Duration, 2 minutes. Cooldown, 10 minutes. Current progress, 40. 2% level, 20 experience, 2032/30,000 strength, 51 points agility, 51 points constitution, 52 points spirit. 47 points free attribute points, 0 points HP, 520/520 points primordial energy, 83/83 points primal energy factor plus 0. 2 stamina, 52/52 points physical attack, 54 points magic attack, 50 points defense, 52 points speed, 51 points talent. Summon skeleton summons 6 skeleton monsters with all attributes of 6 for combat cooldown, 24 hours skills, teleportation, clone technique rare. Insight martial arts. Dragon Elephant Fist entry level, Subduing Demon Staff entry level, Gale Step entry level money. 0 gold 675 silver 113 copper. After upgrading to level 20, his 4 main attributes had all exceeded 50 points, and his primordial energy had reached over 80 points. With the existence of equilibrium force, he had already far surpassed other combat professionists of the same level. He had also left those from his same batch far behind. Chapter 182. If I could extract so many attributes into the real world, even if I encountered Desert Eagle and the White Ape, I should be able to withstand several rounds. Shen Xingyan couldn't help but look forward, feeling a surge of ambition. In just over a month, he had achieved such attributes. If others knew, their jaws would drop, and they would look at him as if he were a monster. At his young age, Shen Xingyan knew that with such attributes in the real world, he was already considered a qualified combat professional. And if he revealed them, he would certainly receive compliments from those around him, satisfying the vanity in his human nature. However, he had no intention of showing off. Having lived at the bottom of society for a long time, he had seen too much of human nature and would not be blinded by pretty words. Moreover, after more than 100 years of development, the attributes of those prodigies among the human race's combat professionist in the real world are estimated to be close to level 100. With his current attributes, he was just a slightly larger ant in front of them. If he accidentally exposed his strength and attracted their attention, he would inevitably become a pawn at their mercy. Even when this pawn was about to threaten them, there was a high probability that it would be discarded, even in this era full of disasters. Although he acknowledged that there was indeed a brilliant side to human nature. In this era where strength reigned supreme and those in power were unrestrained, he dared not gamble on human nature. While Shen Xingyan was lamenting the necessity of continuing to lie low, he, who had just reached level 20 not long ago, received a skill notification from Star Origin. Ding tilde, it has been detected that you meet the conditions to unlock a second profession. Would you like to activate it? Shen Xingyan temporarily set aside his previous thoughts. Looking at the notification in front of him, his heart tightened. He had seen earlier on the attribute panel that the second profession skill could be activated. And now Star Origin World was prompting him, so he had no choice but to make a decision. Having experienced the previous Light Pillar awakening, Shen Xingyan subconsciously felt an instinctive resistance to such self-produced skills, knowing that he did not have very good luck value in this regard. I learned in school that when peasant professional activate their second profession skill, they are highly likely to acquire a ranch-related profession skill, mostly for increasing the growth rate of livestock. And once the second skill is activated, it will automatically synchronize with the real world, leaving no room for regret. Shen Xingyan, feeling a bit unsure, subconsciously thought to himself, but when he thought of this, he suddenly paused. Regret? Don't I have an item that allows for regret? At this moment, his eyes suddenly lit up. He quickly took out the time reset item he had just put away, feeling a sense of calm in his heart. Thinking, I originally thought this alarm clock would be temporarily useless, but I didn't expect it to come in handy now. Although the alarm clock is very valuable, using it on a profession skill is not a waste. With this item, even if I activate an ordinary profession skill, I can use the time reset function to change it, which gives me an extra chance to choose. Moreover, under the effect of my luck value, it's impossible that neither of the two chances will give me a good skill, right? Perhaps the first activation will result in a good skill. Shen Xingyan thought this, and the special item in his hand gave him a little confidence, immediately firming up his previously indecisive thoughts. Looking at the prompt that appeared, Shen Xingyan gently bit his lip and nodded directly, indicating his agreement to activate it. As Shen Xingyan confirmed, the prompt in front of him changed to activating 1%, but the second profession skill did not immediately appear before him. Watching the progress slowly increase by 1% every second, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but complain. This is truly like a dull knife to the throat. It won't give me a quick end. For me, the time spent waiting for a result is the longest. However, despite Shen Xingyan's complaints, he still had to wait. After all, this was a major matter concerning his future profession skills and could not be taken lightly. Fortunately, Star Origin World did not keep Shen Xingyan in suspense for too long. The progress bar reached 100% after a little over a minute, and the prompt instantly disappeared. His second profession skill notification then appeared before him. Congratulations, you have successfully activated the second profession skill. Consume a certain amount of primordial energy points to increase livestock growth speed by plus 20%, lasting for 10 hours, with a skill cooldown of 24 hours. Shen Xingyan, who was initially nervous and expectant, shook his head somewhat dejectedly after seeing this skill. As expected. It's still the same as with ordinary peasant professional. The second profession skill simply increases the growth rate of livestock. However, mine is still a bit better, with a 20% increase, unlike what is recorded in the real world, where it's mostly only 10%. This can be considered luck value at work. But even so, this profession skill is too much of a chicken rib compared to the first one. There's no comparison whatsoever. It seems I can only try using the item I have. I hope I don't waste this precious item. Shen Xingyan sighed, then transmitted the thought of resetting the second profession skill to the alarm clock item in his hand. Do you want to reset your second profession skill attribute and change it to another skill? Looking at the feedback from the item, Shen Xingyan's heart couldn't help but rise. After silently chanting luck value bless me several times, and even performing some pray for blessings-like gestures, he then nodded with some uncertainty, indicating confirmation. The moment Shen Xingyan confirmed, the alarm clock in his hand suddenly emitted an unusually piercing sound, causing Shen Xingyan to instinctively cover his ears. At this moment, the time reset item truly resembled an alarm clock, floating in the air and ringing continuously. A few seconds later, the alarm clock seemed to be suddenly slapped by an invisible hand, instantly stopping its ringing and slowly disappearing from Shen Xingyan's sight. While Shen Xingyan was somewhat puzzled by this unusual movement, the notification from Star Origin World appeared again. Chapter 183. Congratulations, you have successfully activated your second professional skill. Consume a certain amount of primordial energy points to increase the mutation probability of livestock by 20%. Current target, 10 units. Skill cooldown, 24 hours. When Shen Xingyan saw this prompt appear again, his eyes lit up. This time Reset Dao tool is quite powerful. It made Star Origin World display the prompt again, as if nothing had happened before. And this is just the reward for a rank 3 crop breakthrough record. If a rank 4 crop breakthrough reward also has this, wouldn't it be even more powerful? Shen Xingyan thought with some excitement, then carefully examined his second professional skill after the time reset. The professional skill after the reset still maintains a value of 20%, but it has changed from growth speed to mutation probability. A skill that causes livestock to mutate. I had indeed heard of such a skill before, but the probability value was never this high. It is said to be a very popular skill that can cause random mutations in farmed livestock, but this mutation is uncontrollable. Some can mutate into more valuable livestock. Others will directly complete their entire growth cycle, reaching the standard for direct harvest. Even more, some can mutate livestock into pets, instantly elevating their value to another level. But this probability is too small. Hitting it once a year is considered good luck value. However, my current professional skill can make livestock mutate with a 20% probability, which is far beyond the record. You should know that, according to the publicly available data in the real world, the highest mutation probability is only 10%. Of course, it doesn't rule out that some people, like me, choose to remain hidden, but overall, this probability is quite outrageous. Moreover, for me, as long as it involves probability, my luck value can come into play. With both overlay, the actual probability of this skill will far exceed 20%. In the future, with the increasing number of breakthrough records, there might even be luck value attribute rewards. At that time, this professional skill might give me a surprise. Shen Xingyan analyzed with some joy. Although the skill after this reset did not meet his expectations of activating a combat professional skill, he still felt a bit of regret. However, he was already very satisfied with the current professional skill. At least its potential far exceeded other professional skills. While Shen Xingyan was contemplating, the Xingyuan prompt slowly disappeared, and his second professional skill was officially confirmed. At this time, in his attribute panel, in the professional skill area, the introduction of the second skill prominently appeared. Shen Xingyan couldn't help but examine it closely, and just then, the Xingyuan prompt appeared again. Ding Tilde detected that you meet the requirements to open a ranch. Would you like to open the ranch? Upon seeing this, Shen Xingyan nodded directly, indicating his agreement to open it. As expected, reaching professional rank 20 will unlock the ranch function. This can be considered compensation for peasant professional. Otherwise, the growth cycle for peasant professional would truly be too long. If I didn't have powerful professional skills, I would probably be like most peasant professional of my generation, around rank 4 or 5. As Shen Xingyan sighed, after receiving permission, Star Origin World also began to exert its power, and the entire planting space began to undergo tremendous changes. On the other side of the warehouse, which served as the central axis, an area previously shrouded in mist was now gradually becoming clearer, as if another world had opened up. This change stopped in a moment, and after the mist dispersed, Shen Xingyan's vision became much clearer. At this moment, what appeared before Shen Xingyan was a lush grassland, separated by a shallow fence, with an estimated area of about 0.16 acre. Congratulations, ranch function successfully opened. You are rewarded with a brood of chicks and a bag of feed. With the appearance of the Xingyuan prompt, Shen Xingyan also had a sudden realization. After the ranch is opened, my space can no longer be called a planting space. It has become a true profession space. The basic form of the entire space has been established, and in the future, I only need to expand its boundaries. While thinking this, Shen Xingyan also opened his backpack space. looking at the brood of chicks rewarded by Star Origin World inside, with a thought, he placed them in the newly opened ranch. Looking at the 10 chicks that appeared particularly tiny in the ranch, Shen Xingyin couldn't help but sigh slightly. He had wanted to buy more livestock to put in, but he was prompted that the current breeding scale was full. Such a large ranch, and a few chicks fill it up. This is a bit unreasonable, Shen Xingyin muttered softly, but he also knew that Star Origin World had its own rules. Just like his farmland cannot directly plant high-rank crop now, there are limitations. So he just mumbled a few times, and then turned his gaze to the 10 chicks. Then checked their attributes: animal name, chick quantity, 1 brood 10 units growth cycle, 8 days egg-laying cycle. 1 day/1 kilogram remarks, can produce eggs with some nutritional value. A basic animal looking at the simple and clear attribute introduction of the brood of 10 chicks before him, Shen Xingyin had a good understanding. He then opened the Star Origin Mall to check the prices of eggs and mature chickens, and couldn't help but shake his head slightly. Each kilogram of egg sells for 120 copper coins. I estimate that if I sell them to the Star Origin Mall, I'll only get 100 copper coins, and a fully grown chicken sells for 750 copper coins per unit. I definitely won't be able to sell them for that much. Calculating it, if this brood of chicks is all sold normally after 8 days, getting 8 silver coins would be good. Shen Xingyin calculated silently in his mind. If this situation of earning 8 silver coins in 8 days had occurred before, Shen Xingyin would probably have felt very satisfied. After all, at that time, silver coins were a relatively extravagant existence for him. He would have to fight desperately and win a match to get such rewards. But now he can harvest several gold coins every day, so he truly doesn't feel much about this small amount of money. Of course, in the spirit of diligence and frugality, he was very willing to accept such an additional income. Next, it's up to the mutation skill, Shen Xingyin thought. With the idea of casting early for early cooldown, he directly took out his novice staff and unhesitatingly activated the second professional skill he had just obtained. Chapter 184. As Shen Xingyin activated his second profession skill, some of the primordial energy within his body, after being transformed by the profession skill, began to surge into his staff. Feeling this surge of primordial energy, Shen Xingyin also knew the amount of primordial energy consumed this time. This time, activating the profession skill should have only used 10 points of primordial energy. It seems that low-rank animal husbandry truly saves primordial energy, with an average of only 1 point of primordial energy consumed per chicken. Shen Xingyin calculated in his mind, and the reality was indeed as he perceived it. His attribute panel, which had been fully restored to 83/83 primordial energy due to leveling up, now showed 73/83. The 10 vanished points of primordial energy were skillfully emitted through the staff in Shen Xingyin's hand, directly affecting the 10 small chickens. And they, originally still somewhat bewildered, began to chirp excitedly upon feeling the arrival of this primordial energy. Seeing this, Shen Xingyin also walked into the fence, wanting to observe the changes in these small chickens up close. However, the moment he stepped over the fence, he felt as if he had transmigrated through a transparent barrier, which surprised him and also made him nod slightly. Acknowledging this reasonable setting, with the existence of this barrier, the farmland and ranch sides will not interfere with each other. And there won't be a situation where the livestock damages the farmland when I'm not around. The Star Origin world is quite user-friendly, Shen Xingyin thought to himself as he approached the small chickens, squatting down to observe them closely. However, after he and the 10 small chickens stared at each other for more than 10 seconds, he saw that the small chickens had not undergone any special changes. This made Shen Xingyin shake his head, thinking, "It seems I still need to respect probability." A 20% probability plus luck value only increases the probability a bit. Failure is also normal. Shen Xingyin comforted himself with these thoughts, but just as he was about to get up and return to the farmland, A prompt from the Star Origin world sounded. Congratulations, you have successfully used a profession skill. Farmer profession experience +1. Seeing the Xingyuan skill prompt appear, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but raise his head in confusion, wondering in his heart, what's going on? Does not triggering the probability also count as a successful skill use? And the speed of this prompt is a bit slow, not as efficient as the farmland side. And after the prompt appeared, the subsequent phenomenon answered Shen Xingyan's doubts perfectly. He saw the 10 small chickens in front of him suddenly begin to expand rapidly. From their previously small size, like magic, they suddenly grew to the normal size of a chicken. Then a series of eggs began to appear with plop-plop sounds before Shen Xingyan's eyes, astonishing him. Although the effect of the profession skill took a bit longer to brew, it seems it was indeed successfully used, otherwise there wouldn't be this reaction. It's just that the speed at which these 10 chickens laid eggs really opened my eyes. Just like an old machine gun, thud-thud a whole clip came out. The speed is truly fast enough. I've certainly seen something new. As Shen Xingyan shook his head in admiration, the anomaly before him slowly began to stop, and the familiar harvestable icon appeared directly above the ranch. They can be harvested already, that's too fast. Seeing the abnormal phenomenon just now, Shen Xingyan instinctively felt that this mutation should be very successful. But he had not expected the direction of this mutation to be that they could be harvested directly. While surprised, he couldn't help but murmur in disbelief. These small chickens, which require an 8-day growth cycle, actually completed it in less than half a minute. Although such speed is only a probabilistic event, it is indeed fast. Shen Xingyan couldn't help but shake his head in admiration, while his hands did not stop, directly putting all the eggs and fully grown chickens into his backpack space. And as Shen Xingyan completed the harvest, the Xingyuan harvest prompt appeared almost simultaneously. Congratulations. You have harvested 10 chickens normal rank and 8 kilograms of eggs, gaining 880 points of farmer profession experience. Seeing this auspicious number, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but smile happily. To gain so much experience in one day is quite good. Level 3 strawberry crop only provides me with less than 8,000 experience points in 9 days, but 10 rank 1 animals can give so much experience. I hadn't expected it. It seems this second profession skill will indeed give me surprises. While happy, he also opened his backpack space and briefly checked the attributes of the eggs and chickens. Item, egg quantity, 8 value. 100 copper coins attributes. A material for cooking food with the effect of restoring stamina and supplementing a small amount of nutrition. Item, chicken quantity, 10 value. 700 copper coins attributes. A material for cooking food with the effect of restoring stamina and supplementing nutrition. Shen Xingyan saw that this harvest was indeed not far from what he had imagined, and after nodding slightly, he opened the Star Origin Mall and sold all of it. Then he checked the cultivable animals in the Star Origin Mall and found that the animals he could currently cultivate were between rank 1 to 5. With the highest rank livestock being rank 5, cow. Seeing this, he did not hesitate, directly spending 30 silver coins in the Star Origin Mall to buy 10 calves and place them in his ranch. He put all the previously rewarded bag of feed into the feeding trough, and only then did he check the attributes of the calves. Animal name. Calf quantity, 10 growth cycle. 18 days, calves have an 18-day growth cycle. I wonder if they can naturally grow to that point under my profession skill. Shen Xingyan looked at the 10 cute calves, muttering softly, a faint smile appearing at the corner of his mouth. After arranging everything in the ranch, Shen Xingyan crossed the fence and returned to the farmland. Looking at the farmland that needed cultivation, he did not let little skeleton work, but instead picked up the tools himself and began to cultivate. Anyway, he had time now, and with the scarecrow guarding the real world, he wasn't too worried. While cultivating, he also opened the Star Origin Mall and checked the rank 4 crop seeds. He compared each of the crops that needed to be planted, looking for the crop with the longest growth cycle among them. The range of choices for rank 4 crops was undoubtedly much larger, and some fruit trees and some basic medicinal materials had already begun to appear as options. Chapter 185. When Shen Xingyin saw the level 4 fruit tree crop seeds, he immediately ruled them out. Although Wang Kai and the others had grown much taller after several talent skill upgrades, they still couldn't accommodate such large crops, and maintaining them was a very troublesome matter. Weeding, fertilizing, and irrigating, these maintenance tasks were manageable with no major requirements. But once it involved pest control, which required working on the plants, Wang Kai and the others could only stare blankly. After all, they couldn't make little skeleton climb trees. It would be too difficult for them. Moreover, Shen Xingyin took a quick look and found that the growth cycle of fruit trees generally ranged from 50 to 80 days. While this was much longer than strawberry plants, it was not as long as medicinal herbs. In light of this, he directly looked at the medicinal herbs with long growth cycles. Purple flower groundsel, white chrysanthemum, schizonpeta, banlangen. Shen Xingyin murmured softly as he looked at these medicinal herbs. He compared the maturity periods of these seeds one by one, and after repeated comparisons, he focused his attention on the crop with the longest growth cycle at this stage. Peony. Item: peony seed value. 20 silver coins. Attribute: maturity period 100 days, plantable area 600 square meters. After repeated comparisons, among the level 4 crops, only the peony has the longest growth cycle. A 100-day growth cycle is already the same as my acre of primary spirit-grade mutated plants. And according to the Star Origin World's rule that the longer the growth cycle, the higher the value, peony is undoubtedly my top choice this time. After Shen Xingyin confirmed his choice, he no longer hesitated. With a thought, he directly purchased the peony seeds needed for 9 acres of farmland. Originally, purchasing these seeds would have cost 180 silver coins, but after a 30% discount, he only spent 126 silver coins. Looking at the small amount of money saved, Shen Xingyin couldn't help but exclaim, "The 30% discount on purchasing seeds is gradually showing its effect. This is only level 4 seeds, and it saved me 54 silver coins. In the future, I will definitely save more." Holding the peony seeds required for 1 acre of farmland in his hand, Shen Xingyin immediately called Wang Kai, and the man and the skeleton quickly began planting. It only took them a little over 10 minutes to complete the planting of this peony farmland. Compared to the time it took to plant wheat initially, their efficiency had already increased by several times. Seeing that the planting task was complete, Shen Xingyin then remembered that today's major harvest had not yet been processed. He gently patted his forehead and used the backpack function to separate the strawberry plants. He briefly checked the perfect quality strawberries, then sold all of them to the Star Origin Mall, earning a total of 5 gold, 477 silver, plus 500 copper coins. After the money was credited, his total money reached 6 gold, 4 silver, and 413 copper. Shen Xingyin looked at the gold coins arriving, and his face couldn't help but light up with joy. "Let's go, Wang Kai. I'll take you for a stroll around the ranch and teach you how to manage the tasks there. That place doesn't require constant maintenance like the farmland. You just need to send a little skeleton to check on it every hour." Shen Xingyin chattered on as he led Wang Kai across the fence. Only when he saw that Wang Kai was indeed unaffected by the barrier, as he had guessed, did he finally relax. He then taught Wang Kai how to place feed and water, as well as how to clean the ranch. Although this knowledge wasn't like the step-by-step prompts when they first started planting wheat. The Star Origin World had provided explanations for these basic knowledge points when the ranch was opened. Coupled with Shen Xingyin's understanding of this from material in the real world, his teaching was also quite convincing. And Wang Kai, who had grown increasingly intelligent, absorbed what his master taught him like a sponge. And according to his master's words, he automatically arranged corresponding instructions for himself in his mind. Shen Xingyin looked at Wang Kai, who was nodding repeatedly, and smiled with relief. sighing that having such a capable assistant was truly his good fortune, and then praised him affectionately. Seeing that everything here was arranged properly, Shen Xingyan no longer lingered. Amidst Wang Kai's somewhat reluctant emotions, he suddenly disappeared from the profession space. After returning to the real world, Shen Xingyan, as usual, observed the subtle details around him. Seeing no abnormalities, he stood up and murmured softly, "I still need to show my face, otherwise people might think something happened to me. That would only increase attention, which is not good." Saying that, Shen Xingyan slowly walked out of the tent and began to stroll around. He somewhat lazily greeted the surrounding classmates and then chatted with Chu Wai for a while, telling her about the Hearsay Desert Eagle's whereabouts and roughly explaining the distribution of distant monsters collected by his 4 clones. "Shen Xingyan, you really didn't waste your time in the safety zone. To be able to get so much information, why don't you be my secretary for gathering information in the future? I'll pay you." Chu Wai looked at Shen Xingyan with a mischievous smile and spoke in a half-joking tone. But her eyes revealed a sincere meaning, thinking, he is truly so excellent no matter where he is. If he had also awakened a combat profession, then I wouldn't have to work so hard leading a team now. Upon hearing Chu Wai's words, Shen Xingyan chuckled and shook his head, saying matter-of-factly, "Why pay for this? If you want this information, how about I report it to you daily?" After the two chatted and laughed for a while, Shen Xingyan bid farewell and returned to his tent, once again beginning his training in equilibrium force. During this time, at 10 o'clock, he learned his lesson and teleported to a secluded spot near the safety zone. After releasing Assassin No. 6 clone, he quickly returned to the tent, no longer staying outside the safety zone. He then continued to train until 12 a.m. before slowly stopping. Shen Xingyan looked at the equilibrium force progress in his attribute panel, which had reached 71%, and nodded slightly, no longer continuing to train. After tidying up a bit, he connected his Star Origin card and entered the Star Origin world. Inside the profession space, Shen Xingyan looked at the 0.2 primal energy factor behind the primordial energy attribute and thought to himself, "I'll see later what caused the origin energy cultivation speed to become so fast." While thinking, Shen Xingyan sat in his usual spot and activated the origin energy cultivation function. Chapter 186. Shen Xingyan, in his origin energy cultivation state, did not choose to go to sleep immediately, to ascertain the reason for this primordial energy acceleration. Despite feeling sleepy, he kept his eyes open and observed the phenomena occurring after he started cultivating. At this moment, under the influence of the tenfold cultivation speed, those transparent small particles suddenly appeared and, with the effect of tranquility skill, rapidly surged into his body. Shen Xingyan had seen this phenomenon before, so he was not particularly surprised. It's very normal, there's nothing else unusual, so what exactly caused it? Shen Xingyan couldn't help but furrow his brow in thought. However, the scene that unfolded next allowed him to find the reason, and his furrowed brow relaxed. Before long, some light green small particles also emerged from the farmlands before his eyes, slowly merging into his body. Up to this point, everything was no different from what he had experienced before, until that peculiar crop began to exert its power, and the scene instantly changed completely. The mutated crop, which had begun to emit transparent small particles and light green small particles, now resembled a poked hornet's nest, wantonly emitting them and surging towards Shen Xingyan. Shen Xingyan clearly saw that the number of small particles emitted by the peculiar crop far exceeded the total of all other small particles. If compared, one was like sporadic light rain, while the other was like moderate to heavy rain. The two were completely not on the same level. This discovery before his eyes caused Shen Xingyan's eyes to widen, looking at the mutated crop, whose function he had previously been unsure of, with some disbelief. At the same time, he also understood why his cultivation speed had increased so much. So, it was all due to the mutated crop. That makes perfect sense. I remember when I first obtained the mutated seed. Its description stated that it was a mutated seed capable of condensing star origin power and could absorb primordial energy. Now, I didn't expect that under my 10x cultivation speed, these condensed star origin powers would actually be released. Before, I would go straight to sleep after starting origin energy cultivation, but I didn't discover this anomaly immediately. Fortunately, it's not too late now. I have to say, the reward for breaking the production record is indeed very valuable. But these small particles are too numerous, probably 7 or 8 times more than before. This feeling, awesome. Upon learning the ultimate reason, Shen Xingyan instantly brightened, watching the dense small particles merge into his body with a smile on his face. However, there's still a question. These light green small particles are also becoming more numerous, but I still don't understand what their function is. These are clearly not something that origin energy cultivation should have. They are unique to peasant professional. There's no star origin attribute panel or prompts, so relying solely on speculation, I really can't be sure. Shen Xingyan sighed softly as he watched the small particles surge into his body, then stopped thinking about it, slowly lay down, and smiled as he drifted off to sleep. In the real world, his 5 assassin clones were acting independently in the extraterritorial world. For them, who knew no fatigue, they were either killing disasters or on their way to kill disasters. After this period of disaster eradication, they had already collected a considerable amount of source, especially Clone No. 2, not only had he collected the most source, but his martial skill had also reached the same realm as Shen Xingyan's current one. Dragon Elephant Fist at entry-level 10% progress, and Gale Step at entry-level 15% progress. And as the battles continued, his progress subtly showed signs of increasing. However, compared to before, when there was the main body as a standard, which caused a rapid increase in martial skill progress, the speed of this breakthrough progress now seemed to be much slower. Nevertheless, it was already very surprising to have this situation. It should be known that, although they possessed the main body's consciousness, they were ultimately just clones, and to have such performance was already quite good. It is conceivable that in the future, as time passes, under the cumulative power of these clones, Shen Xingyan's future martial skill level will achieve a leap-like improvement that is in no way inferior to comprehension skill. Moreover, an even more important point in this extraterritorial world is the ability to detect unknown dangers. As the saying goes, know yourself and your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Understanding the enemy clearly is more conducive to future combat. At this moment, in places untouched by the trialists, the assassin clones had already investigated the distribution of various monsters. Among them, Shen Xingyan also had the clones mark the disasters that could pose serious threats to trialists of the same realm. He thought of using warning signs to remind them, which would also be a contribution to the human race. However, Shen Xingyan, currently in his dream, was unaware that his actions had caused the entire trialist circle to slowly begin discussing it. Inside the safety zone, in the tent area where the Central District trial personnel resided, a 5-person team led by Liu Yu's gathered to discuss their plan for tomorrow's advance. At this moment, one of them said angrily, "Darn it, who on earth has pushed deeper than our team and even deliberately left marks to mock us? Could it be that Ice Beauty's team? I heard from a team leader I have a good relationship with that their points are quite a bit higher than ours now. It's normal for them to be high. A genius rarely seen in 100 years is not someone we can compare to. The true damage caused by that spatial cut is not something ordinary people can withstand." The few of them discussed, one after another, with occasional bursts of envy and jealousy. Liu Yu's, who had originally shown no interest in their conversation, brightened up when he heard them discuss the Ice Beauty, and a strange smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. It was as if he had seen some target that excited him, and his eyes began to reveal a demeanor of who else but me. It was a self-confidence of being determined to obtain something. It was also fortunate that it was deep into the night, and the primordial energy lights were not turned up to maximum, making it difficult for the other team members to clearly see each other's subtle expressions. Otherwise, if his team members had seen it, they probably wouldn't dare to leave their backs to this righteous team leader. Problematic ad. Chapter 187. Meanwhile, Han Ningxuang, the iceberg beauty Liu Yu's team had been discussing, was quietly lying in her tent. The black star origin card placed on her forehead indicated that her consciousness had already entered the star origin world to begin leveling up her professional rank. She had no such scruples about this kind of operation, which others were too timid to perform. As the Han family's most cherished genius, although this trial posed no risk, the Han family still dispatched their top experts to protect her safety. Moreover, the defensive magic artifacts and protective arrays she wore were also extremely advanced. It was not easy to cause her harm without creating a disturbance, which was why she dared to enter the star origin world so openly here. At this moment, the faint figure of a middle-aged woman stood beside her, silently guarding her. After several days of continuous guarding and observation, the middle-aged woman also felt a subtle sense of confusion. She had not found the perpetrator of the clearly recently carved messages, which made her even more concerned about her young lady's safety. Her mindset towards this originally easy task also involuntarily became more serious. It seems there's a master among the participants in this trial. Other families must have also sent people. With my young lady's talent, no accidents can be allowed. I must also be on guard. The middle-aged woman thought to herself, and her figure subtly disappeared. On the other side, in the profession space, Shen Xingyan, who was sound asleep, had no idea that his warm-heartedness had led to different thoughts among different people. After 6 hours of deep sleep, or rather, primordial energy cultivation, as the meditation time ended, Shen Xingyan slowly opened his eyes, stretched comfortably, and felt his full energy return, his mood greatly refreshed. He then summoned his attribute panel and saw that in the primordial energy attribute column, the primal energy factor had increased from 0.2 to 0.7. Seeing this, he nodded in satisfaction. I only slept for 6 hours and gained 0.5 primal energy factor. This is truly a genuine profit lying down to win scenario. And at this rate, when I wake up tomorrow, I can increase my primordial energy upper limit by another point, a daily increase of 0.5, gaining 1 point of primordial energy in 2 days. This speed is truly unmatched. Shen Xingyan marveled to himself, and at the same time, he subconsciously thought, now I have mutated crops in the star origin world that can quickly increase primordial energy. And in the real world, I have clones collecting source day and night. Both can madly increase my primordial energy upper limit. So, can the free attribute points I gain from leveling up in the future be allocated to other areas? This way, all my attributes will be comprehensively strengthened. However, as soon as this thought appeared, Shen Xingyan immediately rejected it. For most people, directly increasing physical attributes is indeed the most intuitive approach, but for him, with his comprehension skill, this method was not suitable. In the real world, I have the power of balance. As long as I have enough primordial energy, my comprehension skill will be strong enough. And improving the 4 main attributes is only a matter of time. There's no need for separate enhancement. Moreover, the importance of primordial energy is self-evident. I cannot give up the primary for the secondary. Furthermore, other skills like teleportation and clone technique also require primordial energy as support. For me, the more primordial energy, the better. I must stick to the path of primordial energy and continue down it. Shen Xingyan completely discarded the idea of directly improving physical attributes. He then stood up and checked the important farmland, focusing on the mutated crop, and lovingly loosened the soil around the mutated crop, which was already as tall as mature wheat. He softly murmured, "Little cutie, you must grow well. Your growth will contribute to the progress of my primordial energy in the future." After checking the farmland, Shen Xingyan went to the ranch. Seeing the calves full and resting leisurely, he smiled gently. He handed everything over to Wang Kai, praised Wang Kai, and then immediately returned to the real world. As soon as his consciousness returned to his main body, Shen Xingyan checked the perspectives of his clones to see if there had been any casualties overnight. To his relief, ever since he learned his lesson and instructed his clones to act cautiously, no unexpected situations had occurred, which made him nod in satisfaction. Shen Xingyan took out some food from his space, quickly replenished his energy, and began his day's power of balance training. Currently, each hour of his training could increase his skill progress by 7.1%, and the remaining progress for his current level 8 power of balance was only 29%. He only needed a little over 4 hours to complete it, which would then bring in another 4 attribute points. This rapid attribute improvement fascinated him. Moreover, after being optimized by the comprehension skill, the power of balance training became even more enjoyable, completely lacking the tediousness of the past. These two factors combined greatly boosted Shen Xingyan's motivation to train. Just like that, he trained for 2 hours until his clone technique skill cooldown was complete. He then paused briefly, took his clone outside the safety zone, and without going far, returned towards the tent. On his way back, he vaguely heard some people mocking him. Look, the former prodigy is now so scared that he hides in the safety zone every day. Even when he leaves the safety zone, he only walks a few steps and then fearfully returns. It's truly lamentable. Don't say that. Be careful, our prodigy might hear you and beat you to the ground later. Beat me to the ground? It's a different time now. If it weren't for the ban on fighting in the safety zone, who knows who would beat whom to the ground? Shen Xingyan feigned an angry expression and indignantly hurried back, ignoring the mocking voices. However, others did not know that inwardly he was quite pleased with this situation. This decrease in attention was what he desired. In fact, he would even need to stage a rebellion later, ultimately losing to his opponent to perfectly complete his plan of hiding himself. Chapter 188. Back in his tent, Shen Xingyan adjusted his mood slightly, then began training his power of balance. After 2 hours of training just now, his level 8 power of balance skill progress had reached 85.2%. At the current rate of improvement, he would reach the upgrade standard in just over 2 more hours. Seeing this, Shen Xingyan immediately went full throttle, immersing himself in the training, as strength was his ultimate reliance for survival. While he was training, he didn't know that those who had been speaking yin and yang words earlier were overheard by Chu Wai and her group as they passed by. Chu Wai, instantly furious, walked directly in front of them and held a huge fireball in her palm, its scorching temperature causing everyone around to look over. Seeing the appearance of the fireball, the few people opposite her immediately stammered loudly, "Master Chu, what are you doing? Fighting is not allowed in the safety zone." Don't act rashly. Being in the same school, these few naturally knew the relationship between Shen Xingyan and Chu Wai. And now that they had just finished slandering Shen Xingyan, Chu Wai directly pulled such a move on them. They knew the reason with just a thought. While they inwardly blamed themselves for their words causing trouble, they were also genuinely afraid that Chu Wai would launch such a fireball at them. Although their physique and health could withstand a few fireballs, it would still hurt. The feeling of being burned was very real. But they couldn't fight back, so they could only hope the other party wouldn't act impulsively. I'm telling you, if you dare to speak in that yin and yang manner again, be careful when you encounter me outside the safety zone. Shen Xingyan is under my protection, so if you have any issues, come at me. Chu Wai spoke loudly, sweeping her gaze around, not at all concealing her actions, as if deliberately letting others hear. Then, as the few people in front of her nodded rapidly, she finally put away the scorching fireball, glanced in the direction of Shen Xingyan's tent in the distance, and led her team out of the safety zone. After watching Chu Wai and the others walk away, the few people then sighed softly. A man behind a woman, we can't afford to provoke him, we can't afford to provoke him. But he's just a lifestyle professional, so it's not worth causing trouble for ourselves over such a person. Meanwhile, Shen Xingyan, who was training, had no idea that Chu Wai had completed an assist, saving him from some minor troubles, while also officially branding him with the title Off-Soft Rice Man. However, even if he knew, he would probably just give a wry smile and not bother to argue. Although this title wasn't very pleasant, having such an identity meant that people would subconsciously belittle him whenever they thought of him, which was very beneficial for him to conceal himself. After Shen Xingyan returned to his tent and trained for over 2 hours, a familiar sense of comfort appeared, and he already knew that his power of balance had reached level 9. He slowly stopped his movements, took out his star origin card, and happily checked it. Power of balance level 9. Passive, 4 fixed attributes plus 9 active. Consumes 18 primordial energy, activates power of balance, can temporarily transfer 18 attribute points to a designated attribute, lasts for 2 minutes, cooldown 10 minutes. Current progress, 0% strength, 23 points agility, 23 points physique, 24 points spirit. 19 points looking at the improvement in his skill rank and his 4 main attributes. Shen Xingyan couldn't help but grin. Since I became a professional, the total increase in my 4 attributes has reached 49 points, which is equivalent to an 8th rank professional who has extracted all attribute points from the star origin world. But in reality, I've only extracted 2 points of primordial energy. If others knew this, they probably wouldn't believe it. But then again, if the real world also had such a rate of improvement, people probably wouldn't go to the star origin world, and disasters wouldn't pose a threat, right? Shen Xingyan thought with a bit of emotion, then put away his star origin card, checked the time, and continued training. After training for another hour, he rechecked his skill progress and found that it had reached 7.1%. This number also proved that the level 9 power of balance maintained the same rate of improvement as before, with no signs of slowing down. Shen Xingyan had anticipated this, so he wasn't particularly shocked. But he also had a faint premonition that the power of balance might change once it reached level 10, and the growth rate would no longer be the same. Although he thought this, he still hoped that this speed could continue after all. A 4-point attribute increase per day was something that even advanced professionals would probably find unattainable. Shen Xingyan temporarily put aside his thoughts and continued to immerse himself in training. With the motivation from the recent attribute increase, his training vigor became even more abundant. And his training continued until almost 3 o'clock in the afternoon before slowly concluding. By then, after more than 4 hours of training, his power of balance progress had reached 32%. He showed a slight hint of joy at this expected progress, then set it aside. He adjusted his mood, replenished his energy, and then activated his comprehension skill. As the skill was activated, his comprehension ability increased to 19 points, and the insight time arrived. The transparent figure in his mind appeared as expected, beginning to guide Shen Xingyan in training his power of balance. Seeing this, Shen Xingyan naturally didn't delay, immersing his entire mind into it. The increase in comprehension ability also gave him more insights when observing the transparent figure's movements. It was as if he had gone from seeing a mountain as a mountain, tossing a mountain, not as a mountain carefully experiencing the profound charm hidden beneath the movements. It wasn't until the hour of insight ended that the drop in comprehension ability pulled Shen Xingyan out of that state. Feeling a bit lost, he quickly adjusted his emotions. He checked the progress of his power of balance and found that it had reached 68%, which was as he had expected, and he nodded slightly. Then, his mind and body continued to carefully process the insight he had just gained. After more than 10 minutes, he slowly opened his eyes. In 2 more hours, it will be time for harvest. I must seize the time to train. Shen Xingyan calculated the time, and his hands didn't stop, continuing to train. Chapter 189. 2 hours later, Shen Xingyan stopped exercising the power of balance, then checked his attribute panel. Finding that its progress had reached 84%, with only 16% remaining until the next level. The current skill progress was an astonishing 16% higher than when the comprehension skill ended. I spent 2 hours to increase the progress by 16%, so exercising for 1 hour would give an 8% progress increase. As expected, it's exactly as I estimated before, without any reduction. After harvesting in the profession space, I only need to train for another 2 hours, and then I'll have 4 more attribute points. Moreover, I already gained 4 attribute points this morning, and if I get another batch, it means I'll have obtained 8 attribute points in 1 day. This was unimaginable for me before. It's simply too magical. Shen Xingyan looked at this crazy situation, couldn't help but purse his lips, suppressing the smile on his face. Then he ate something, enabled the scarecrow's protective function, took out his star origin card, and connected to the star origin world. Upon arriving at the profession space, Shen Xingyan first summoned 6 sturdy little skeletons and handed them over to Wang Kai for training. Then he walked to the strawberry farmland that was about to mature, and the novice staff appeared in his hand as he willed it. The other little skeletons, seeing their master's stance, vaguely knew what was about to happen. Under Wang Kai's command, they skillfully moved to their respective areas. Seeing that everything was ready, Shen Xingyan no longer hesitated and silently activated the first professional skill in his mind. As the professional skill was activated, he felt 65 points of primordial energy surging within his body. Multiple castings had made him very familiar with this feeling. It seems that for level 4 crops, one farmland also requires 5 points of primordial energy. Is it always like this for normal planting, and only spirit-grade crops will increase the primordial energy usage? Shen Xingyan couldn't help but wonder. As he was thinking this, the primordial energy quickly gathered at the top of his staff, and at this moment, the persistent prompt appeared again. Ding tilde, it is detected that you are casting a professional skill on some crop that is about to mature. The casting of this skill may fail for this portion of crop. Do you wish to continue? After several successful castings, Shen Xingyan was no longer so afraid of this prompt, but there was still a slight ripple in his emotions. Although the existence of the luck attribute seemed to always make probability side with him, he dared not take it lightly, to avoid becoming complacent and suffering a tragic outcome from excessive joy. It was not too late to be happy once the dust settled. Shen Xingyan silently prayed for a moment, then nodded to confirm continuation. Subsequently, the primordial energy began to leave the staff, instantly covering the entire farmland. Shen Xingyan quietly waited for a slightly long few seconds, and then, under his somewhat expectant gaze, the skill casting prompt appeared before his eyes. Congratulations, you have successfully cast a professional skill. Farmer profession experience +1. Seeing the prompt before him, a joyful expression suddenly appeared on Shen Xingyan's face. After thanking the goddess of luck for her favor in his heart, his gaze also turned to the strawberry farmland beneath his feet, and he began to happily appreciate the changes in the crop. Although the effect took more than 10 seconds to fully manifest, compared to the few seconds he just spent waiting for the result, Shen Xingyan felt it passed much faster. As if in the blink of an eye, all signs of rapid growth of the crop on the entire farmland disappeared, followed by a flood of maintenance prompts. Shen Xingyan had no intention of interfering with those maintenance prompts, as he now had as many as 87 little skeletons. Moreover, they all had 6 points in all attributes, and their work efficiency was incredibly fast. Coupled with the fact that they had no stamina limit and could continuously perform high-intensity labor. For level 3 crop like strawberries, only 4 or 5 little skeletons were needed to handle their rapid maintenance tasks. He didn't pay much attention to the strawberry farmland, but Shen Xingyan did cast a rather attentive glance at the newly planted peony farmland. At this moment, in his eyes, the speed of the maintenance prompts appearing above the peony farmland had clearly increased by a considerable margin. However, after comparison, although the growth cycle of peonies, like mutated seeds, was 100 days, the frequency of their maintenance tasks appearing had a very obvious difference, which made him ponder. The difference in maintenance task frequency seems to be increasing with the rise in crop level. The difference between the level 2 and level 3 crop I planted before, under similar cycles, had already appeared, but it wasn't as huge as between level 3 and level 4 crop. But this time, it's very obvious. It seems that in the future, the crop maintenance prompts will become more and more frequent as the level increases. It's fortunate that I have an ever-increasing number of little skeletons helping me. Otherwise, facing so many farmlands, even if my attributes were higher, it would be a bit difficult to handle. Shen Xingyan thought this, but his hands did not delay at all, quickly harvesting the time-limited strawberry farmland beneath his feet. A few minutes later, all the strawberry plants on this farmland were collected into Shen Xingyan's backpack space. At the same time, the Star Origin harvest prompt began to echo in Shen Xingyan's ears. Congratulations! You have planted 600 square meters of strawberries this time, with a yield of 1335 kilograms, and gained 8010 farmer profession experience points. Listening to the yield in the prompt, Shen Xingyan smiled faintly, thinking calmly, today's wool gathering plan is 99% complete. Now it depends on what kind of reward the Star Origin world can give me to complete that 1%. While waiting for the upcoming breakthrough reward, Shen Xingyan opened the Star Origin Mall and separated all the crop harvested this time. Then he sold the strawberries and branches that had their quality improved by the black soil, earning a total of 5 gold, 626 silver, and 500 copper coins. At this point, the money in his wallet had once again exceeded 10 gold coins, reaching the standard for extracting primordial energy attributes. Seeing this, Shen Xingyan did not hesitate to extract a point of primordial energy upper limit to the real world. When Shen Xingyan saw his wallet, which was once again left with only a little over 1 gold coin, he didn't feel any heartache. After all, money only truly belonged to him when it was spent. He closed it with a smile, his gaze directed towards the sky, waiting for the arrival of the Star Origin breakthrough reward. Chapter 190. After Shen Xingyan completed everything before him, the record of his Star Origin breakthrough suddenly appeared before his eyes. Congratulations! You have once again broken your previous record of 1,300 kilograms of strawberries per moo, successfully reaching 1,335 kilograms. You are specially rewarded with a talent skill growth stone. Star Origin will make a server-wide announcement. Would you like to make the information public? Upon seeing this reward, Shen Xingyan's already expectant eyes immediately glowed with fervent light. It's another talent skill growth stone. This one is truly amazing. This is the kind of reward that allows me to continuously grow stronger, although other items are also very magical. For me, the growth of my talent makes me feel more secure. And it seems I can get a lovely stone every few days now. Most other rewards have only appeared once, except for the skill extraction voucher, which appeared twice. So the frequency of talent stones appearing is still quite high. This is already the 6th one I've received. Could it be that Star Origin World also pities my low talent skill and is rewarding me with these lovely stones? While Shen Xingyan was pleasantly surprised, he couldn't help but think, if that's truly the case, then please don't stop. I hope all future breakthrough rewards are talent stones. I won't have any objections to that. After a slightly excited murmur, Shen Xingyan quickly paid 100 silver coins to Star Origin World, making the announcement disappear, and put the lovely little black stone into his bag. At this moment, with a joyful expression, he took out the talent stone from his backpack space and carefully examined its attributes. Finding that, as he expected, it was a talent synchronization growth plus 1 talent stone. It seems that the talent stones in the 3rd level crop breakthrough rewards are only these basic types of talent stones. To obtain intermediate or advanced talent stones, I still need to break records on higher level crops. Shen Xingyan murmured softly, then admired the luster of the small stone several more times before putting it back into his backpack space. Then he called Wang Kai over and had him lead a few little skeletons to cultivate this farmland. He also handed him a moo of peony seeds and said with a hint of temptation, "Wang Kai, work hard. Once this farmland's planting task is complete, I will reward you well." This time, it's a real reward. Shen Xingyan said with a light chuckle, thinking to himself that after his own talent skill improved, Wang Kai and the others would also improve their physical attributes, so this could be considered a reward for them. Upon hearing his master's instructions, Wang Kai immediately straightened up and called over more than a dozen little skeletons, whose labor force was overflowing, to participate in this task. And under Wang Kai's efficient training, the other little skeletons began this somewhat unfamiliar labor almost without hesitation, as if they were born to do it, and their meticulousness seemed innate. Shen Xingyan smiled when he saw this scene. Wang Kai also understands the principle that many hands make light work now. Not bad, not bad. With this kind of thinking, all the little skeletons I summon in the future will be able to play their part. After entrusting the farmland to Wang Kai, Shen Xingyan turned to go to the ranch. Walking into the fence, he looked at the 10 robust calves being fed and the clean and tidy area, and couldn't help but nod slightly, thinking, it seems Wang Kai and the others are taking very good care of them. Then, without any delay, he directly took out his novice staff and cast his second professional skill. However, as 10 points of primordial energy left his body and acted on the calves, he only saw the 10 calves excitedly moo a few times before falling silent, with no other unusual phenomena. Then Star Origin's prompt appeared. Unfortunately, your professional skill failed. Farmer professional experience +1. Shen Xingyan, who had a bad feeling from the previous signs, knew after seeing the clear explanation in the Star Origin prompt that the 20% chance had not favored him this time. It seems all my luck value today was used on the talent stone, which means things aren't going so well at the ranch. Shen Xingyan sighed softly, but he wasn't too disappointed. After all, today's harvest was already very significant. It didn't matter if the calves didn't mutate, there was still tomorrow and the day after. He believed that with his own luck value, he wouldn't fail every time. Shen Xingyan thought this to himself, and at the same time, the excited mood he had from getting the talent stone earlier also became much calmer. This give and take, in turn, made him feel a bit more secure. After checking the work at the ranch, Shen Xingyan returned to the farmland. Seeing that Wang Kai and the others had not yet completed the task of planting peonies, he was not in a hurry. He lay directly in his usual spot, took out the endlessly captivating talent stone from his backpack space, and leisurely admired it. A few minutes later, with the concerted effort of over a dozen little skeletons, the planting of the peonies was quickly completed, and only then did Wang Kai come to his master to report back. Shen Xingyan looked at Wang Kai, who was trotting over to report on the work, and couldn't help but chuckle softly, thinking to himself, it seems the saying under heavy rewards, there will be brave men, also applies very well to Wang Kai and the others. Then he went to the peony farmland and took a stroll. From the markings and Star Origins prompts, it was clear that Wang Kai and the others had done a very good job. After recording the planting time of this peony farmland, Shen Xingyan looked at Wang Kai with approval and praised him, saying, Wang Kai, you all did a good job this time, and you've all worked hard during this period. The reward I promised you before, I will fulfill it now. After Shen Xingyan finished speaking, he directly confirmed the use of the talent stone, which then suddenly disappeared within the profession space. And Wang Kai, who was somewhat confused by his master's sudden disappearance, felt a surge of power within his body. Even the bones on his body began to grow slightly. Upon seeing this change, Wang Kai couldn't help but clench his finger bones, feeling his body grow stronger once again. And the other little skeletons who were working in the farmland also felt this improvement, and they subconsciously looked towards their captain, Wang Kai. Upon noticing the little skeletons' somewhat sluggish movements, Wang Kai directly sent a thought, telling them to continue working, and at the same time, conveyed the information that their master had bestowed power upon them. This caused their longing for their master to gradually sink deep into their bones. Chapter 191. At this moment, Shen Xingyin, who had been kicked out of the star origin world, was gently pressing his head with both hands, trying to alleviate the current discomfort. The feeling of being forcibly kicked out was as if his consciousness had been attacked, and the resulting dizziness left Shen Xingyin disoriented for a while. After this sensation gradually faded, a slightly clearer Shen Xingyin checked his surroundings. Seeing no signs of danger around him, he temporarily deactivated the scarecrow's protective function. The star origin world kicked me out with quite a force this time. It feels more severe than the previous times. Is it because I've been exploiting it too much lately? Is the star origin world taking this opportunity to punish me? While sighing, Shen Xingyin couldn't help but recall the dizziness from just now, mumbling softly. Even if that's true, there's nothing I can do. The rewards for breaking records are just too tempting. I can't control myself. Once all the uncomfortable symptoms in his mind disappeared, Shen Xingyin happily checked his attributes through the star origin card on his forehead, primordial energy. 19/23 points talent. Summon skeleton summons 7 skeleton monsters with all attributes at 7 to fight cooldown, 24 hours. Shen Xingyin looked at his primordial energy attribute in the real world. Because he spent 10 gold coins to extract it, the upper limit increased by 1 point, becoming 23 points. And his talent skill was also enhanced due to the use of the talent stone, becoming 2 sevens. This feeling of truly possessing something in the real world filled him with satisfaction. Although his attributes in the star origin world were numerous, they always felt somewhat incomplete without being extracted. After checking his own attributes, Shen Xingyin lay there without moving much, but he focused his attention on the perspectives of his 6 clones. These clones also seemed to inherit the main body's steady personality. When encountering a disaster stronger than the main body, they would feign weakness and pitifulness like ants, slowly concealing themselves. They would only begin to act after confirming that everything around them was safe. Among them, Assassin 2 clone, following this style of conduct, was able to survive in the perilous extraterritorial world for more than 3 days with all attributes at 10 points. He also managed to eliminate quite a few Earth attribute disasters, and because of his excellent concealment, he even discovered several strange plants guarded by disasters. According to the information sent back by Clone 2, the attributes of those disasters are probably between 50 and 60, according to the data. I definitely can't kill them, but if Chu Y's team goes to kill them, they have full confidence. Based on previous understanding, Chu Y, who has already leveled up to rank 10, has put all her points into mental energy. Without equipment bonuses, her spell attack should already be 37 points, plus the 58% spell damage bonus. Her damage can already cause a certain amount of harm. With the added bonuses from equipment and weapons, eliminating them wouldn't be much of a problem. As long as there's a tank to withstand the attacks, killing them would be very easy. However, I can't be the one to convey this information. It's too easy to expose myself. Only a clone can inform them. Shen Xingyin pondered for a moment, and once he made up his mind, he no longer hesitated, directly casting clone technique to summon Assassin 8 clone. Then, he used his blink skill to instantly send him to the previously hidden corner. He had observed this place before. It was a good hiding spot. Blinking here at night would basically not expose him. After releasing the clone, Shen Xingyin had him hunt small monsters nearby. Then, when Chu Y's team arrived tomorrow, he would transform into human form and accidentally reveal this information as if by chance. This way, he could be considered to have slightly repaid Chu Y, this little son, for her care. After instructing the clone to execute this plan, the moment clone technique finished its cooldown, he immediately blinked back to his tent. Having been suddenly attacked last time, he wouldn't put himself in danger again. Upon returning to his tent, he immediately began training his equilibrium force. The thought of gaining 4 attribute points in 2 hours filled him with excitement. With this drive, Shen Xingyin trained for 2 hours. As the time arrived, he felt a familiar sensation of invigoration spread through his body. Upon feeling this unusual sensation, a smile immediately appeared on Shen Xingyan's face, and his body movements slowly ceased. He then took out his star origin card to check Equilibrium Force rank 10, passive, 4 fixed attributes plus 10 active. Consumes 20 primordial energy to activate Equilibrium Force, temporarily transferring 20 attribute points to a designated attribute for 2 minutes. Cooldown 10 minutes. Current progress 0% strength, 24 points agility, 24 points physique, 25 points mental energy, 20 points health, 250/250 points stamina, 10/25 points physical attack, 24 points spell attack, 20 points defense, 25 points speed, 24 points. Looking at the attributes that had changed twice within the day, Shen Xingyan grinned and started laughing. Haha, these attribute gains are truly addictive. An 8-point attribute increase per day. Only those who spend 80 gold coins to extract attributes from the Star Origin world can achieve something like this, right? And I, on the other hand, achieved this through my own training. There's a fundamental difference between the two. The attribute increase made Shen Xingyan happy for quite a while. Once that emotion subsided, he focused his gaze on the rank of Equilibrium Force. I wonder what the speed of improvement will be for the next 10 ranks of Equilibrium Force. Will it be at the same speed as before, or as I'm worried about? With this thought, Shen Xingyan began to verify it. It's 9 p.m. now. Let's see how much progress there will be by 10 p.m. 1 hour's worth of data should be enough to determine a result. As Shen Xingyan thought this, his body began to practice Equilibrium Force, and his increasingly graceful movements quickly immersed him in the process. In this state, time flew by. Soon, an hour of training passed. Shen Xingyan slowly stopped his movements and opened his Star Origin card to check the skill description of Rank 10, Equilibrium Force. Chapter 192, Equilibrium Force Rank 10, passive, 4 fixed attributes plus 10. Active, consumes 20 primordial energy to activate Equilibrium Force, temporarily transferring 20 attribute points to a specified attribute for 2 minutes. Cooldown, 10 minutes. Current progress, 0.8%. Shen Xingyan's gaze skipped over other descriptions and landed directly on the progress of Equilibrium Force. After discovering that his 1-hour training session this time only yielded 0.8% progress, a tenfold decrease from the previous 8%, his brows furrowed deeply. This huge disparity made him feel somewhat dejected for a moment, and while he sighed inwardly, he also felt a wave of surprise. Although I had long anticipated the day when progress would slow down, I never expected such a drastic decrease. It's not just a knee chop, it's a direct ankle chop. This is too abnormal. While this drastic difference made Shen Xingyan somewhat incredulous, after analyzing it, he slowly came to a realization that the more he thought about it, the more something felt off. Slowly, the dejection in his heart lessened. As the saying goes, unusual occurrences indicate something strange. Although I expected a decrease in Equilibrium Force, this decrease is too significant. There must be something I don't know. And the reason for this situation can probably only be analyzed after I raise the Equilibrium Force rank to 11 and see the situation at rank 11. As Shen Xingyan thought this, a feeling called anticipation subtly rose in his heart. The rapid improvement before certainly made him very happy, but this change now also caused his thoughts, which seemed to be floating in space, to slowly settle, giving him a sense of groundedness and a feeling of emotions settling. Forget it, I won't worry about what happens in the future for now. I'll just keep cultivating. Anyway, even small improvements are still improvements, and I won't give up on Equilibrium Force, which is progressing every day. Moreover, even if it only improves by 0.8% per hour now, with over 10 hours of training a day, it will still be more than 10%. Plus, as my primordial energy limit increases in the future, and with the use of comprehension skill, my efficiency will definitely pick up gradually. As long as I endure, this is just a matter of time. Everything will come. After giving himself a big pep talk in his heart, Shen Xingyin also took a deep breath and continued to cultivate for another 2 hours. After reaching his planned training time, he finally stopped. He took out his Star Origin card to check the skill progress of Equilibrium Force and found that it had reached 4%. He sighed softly in his heart. I really got used to that high-speed improvement before. Now, suddenly, with such small increments, I'm really not used to it. Shen Xingyin chuckled softly to himself. Then, after activating the Scarecrow's protection, he directly connected his Star Origin card and entered the Star Origin world. Inside the profession space, Shen Xingyin had just stabilized himself when he saw Wang Kai and the others battling the invading little monsters. Having seen this kind of battle many times, he wasn't particularly concerned at first. But when he saw that this time the invading little monsters were not just rabbits, he was immediately stunned. Why is there another type of monster in this monster invasion now? Snakes. Is it because I planted peonies? But the number of monsters is similar to before. As he thought this, Shen Xingyin focused his attention on a snake and checked the attributes of this little monster. Name: Young Snake Strength. 6 points Agility, 7 points Physique, 5 points Spirit, 4 points Health, 36/50 points Physical Attack, 7 points Spell Attack, 4 points Defense, 5 points Speed. 7 points. Looking at the attributes of this little monster, Shen Xingyin couldn't help but frown slightly. Feeling a subtle unease in his heart, from the previous char to the later rabbits, and now to the snakes, as the cultivation cycle and rank of my crop increase, the attributes of these invading little monsters are also gradually increasing. It seems that when planting more advanced crop in the future, this is something to be mindful of. Don't accidentally overturn in the ditch. I can accept the crop being destroyed, as long as Wang Kai doesn't suffer any losses. However, with the current number and combat power of the little skeletons, they are completely sufficient to handle the current situation. I don't need to worry too much about this for now. Shen Xingyin nodded slightly, then went to the farmland to check the growth of the crop, focusing on the current state of the peonies. The first acre of peonies planted, after one rapid professional skill use, had already surpassed the growth of the mutated crop, which also had a 100-day growth cycle, appearing full of vitality. Seeing this, Shen Xingyin also nodded slightly. It seems that spirit rank seeds indeed have their unique advantages. During his inspection, the battle on Wang Kai's side had also completely ended. At this moment, Wang Kai quickly came to his master's side and affectionately touched Shen Xingyin's hand with his little skeleton head, as if expressing gratitude. Seeing Wang Kai's behavior, Shen Xingyin smiled with some relief, gently patted his head and instructed, "No need to thank me, this is what you deserve. Moreover, if you encounter invading little monsters that you can't defeat in the future, remember to have the other little skeletons use Berserk skill in batches. If even that doesn't work, then quickly hide to the side. You absolutely cannot have any accidents, understand? Currently, Wang Kai and the others have all attributes at 7. After using Berserk skill to double their attributes, they will have all attributes at 14 points, which is already enough to kill monsters in the wild." However, Shen Xingyin was still a little worried. After all, there was still a mutated crop in his farmland. If it, as a spirit rank crop, attracted monsters, then their attributes would not be comparable to Wang Kai and the others' current ones. And Wang Kai, upon hearing his master's instructions, although he didn't know how such weak nutrients could possibly be unbeatable, he still nodded very obediently. Seeing this, Shen Xingyin felt relieved and let Wang Kai and the others work on their own, while he went to his usual spot and began origin energy cultivation. After briefly appreciating the increasingly numerous small particles, Shen Xingyin looked at the 0.7 primal energy factor in his attribute panel, knowing that after he woke up this time, his primordial energy attribute limit would increase again. This brought a smile to his face, and with this thought, he comfortably fell into a dream. Chapter 193. 6 hours later, Shen Xingyin awoke from his meditative state. Just as he was about to open his attribute panel to check his primordial energy status, He heard a prompt from Star Origin. Ding tilde, it has been detected that your primal energy factor has reached 1 point. Your primordial energy limit has automatically increased by 1 point. Seeing this prompt, a look of understanding appeared on Shen Xingyan's face. At the same time, the attribute panel materialized before his eyes, and his gaze immediately focused on the primordial energy attribute, primordial energy. 84/84 points primal energy factor plus 0. 3. Seeing that his attributes had indeed increased, as he had expected, his prediction of gaining 1 primordial energy point every 2 days officially came true. Upon seeing this, the corners of Shen Xingyan's mouth curved upwards, and he sighed with emotion. Now, all that's left is money. As long as I get a large amount of gold coins, these attributes will truly belong to me. Next, I'll focus on farming to save money and enhance my strength in the real world. After giving himself a pep talk, Shen Xingyan's gaze fell upon the farmland before him. 3rd-level strawberry crops with a 50-day growth cycle can provide me with over 5 gold coins daily. So, when I harvest 4th-level peony crops with a 100-day growth cycle, it should be at least 10 gold coins, right? At that time, the idea of extracting 1 point of primordial energy into the real world every day will truly no longer be a dream. Shen Xingyan cheerfully looked ahead. Then he instructed Wang Kai to fully take care of everything here before he directly returned to the real world. Slowly awakening, Shen Xingyan observed that there was nothing unusual around him. Seeing this, he had a thought, deactivated the scarecrow's protective function, and used his clone technique. Picking up the summoned clone, he walked out of the tent, slowly moving his body as he headed towards the outside of the safety zone. After successfully passing through the formation, he let clone know. 9 go far away on its own, while he returned to the safety zone. However, on the way back, he was met with strange looks, some of which clearly contained gossip, which left him a bit puzzled. But he didn't pay much attention to it, simply assuming that his hermit behavior had led to him being ostracized and discussed by everyone. He casually bought a few freshly baked steamed buns at a street vendor's stall at a high price. After eating, he returned directly to his tent to continue training. Today is the 5th day of the trial. It will end in 2 more days, and then I can safely go back and lie low. My strength is still too weak. Shen Xingyan murmured softly, his movements never stopping as he immersed himself in the training of the equilibrium force. However, professionals like Shen Xingyan, who spent long periods cooped up in their tents, were very rare. After all, for them, having studied in school for over a decade, it was a rare opportunity to come to the extraterritorial world. Even those who awakened as lifestyle professionals would want to experience the feeling of fighting against disasters. They also knew that it would be uncertain when they would have such an easy opportunity to come out again in the future. Meanwhile, at the score calculation office, a group of people were busy with statistics for the end of the trial 2 days later. Shen Xingyan, this child, hasn't even earned 1 point yet. This isn't like him. Could it be that he was truly disheartened by his awakened profession and chose to give up? At this moment, Teacher Lai shook his head with a sigh when he saw that Shen Xingyan was at the bottom of the statistical list. The other teachers at the school had naturally heard about Shen Xingyan's situation. While feeling regretful about it, they also somewhat understood him emotionally. This is quite normal. If it were you or me, falling from such a high position, we'd probably be the same. A colleague next to Teacher Lai also sighed softly. Teacher Lai, who had been thinking of going to Shen Xingyan to see what was going on, stopped his movements upon hearing this and thought, Perhaps I misjudged him. However, Shen Xingyan, who was misjudged by Teacher Lai, had been training continuously from morning until nearly 3 in the afternoon, with hardly any breaks. Such training intensity, lasting over 8 hours, was rarely achieved by his peers, but for Shen Xingyan, it was like a daily routine. Stopping his movements, he slowly adjusted his state, replenishing his energy while also opening his attribute panel to check it. Upon seeing that his equilibrium force progress had reached 9.2%, he nodded slightly. Although this progress would have only taken him over an hour previously, he had no complaints now. He was very satisfied with being able to improve bit by bit. Just as he was about to activate his comprehension skill, he suddenly felt a tremor from Clone No. 2. Before he could figure out the sudden situation, he saw that the perspective of Clone No. 2 in his mind suddenly disappeared, indicating that Clone No. 2 had already fallen. This unexpected event caused Shen Xingyan's brows to furrow slightly. Unable to determine the exact cause, he could only wait for Clone No. 2's consciousness to return to understand what had happened. A minute later, the consciousness returned. Shen Xingyan quickly read through the memories, finally understanding the full story. It turned out that as Clone No. 2 delved deeper behind the disaster lines, domain-level disasters began to appear one after another. Originally, everything was fine. Due to the insignificance of the ant clone, it was not easily detected, and he had safely killed many low-attribute disasters. However, he had underestimated the domain-level disasters, whose lethality was area-based, much like a gravitational field. As soon as Clone No. 2 entered their domain, it was instantly annihilated indiscriminately. Knowing the full story, Shen Xingyan immediately felt extremely aggrieved by the death of Clone No. 2, and at the same time, he gained a new understanding of the strength of the disasters. It seems I need to quickly improve my strength. These are the kinds of disasters I'll be hunting in the future. Knowing this situation, Shen Xingyan showed no fear. Instead, he was filled with fighting spirit for this challenge. Just as he was about to activate his comprehension skill, he discovered that as his consciousness integrated, an abnormal situation began to occur with the primordial energy within his body. Having experienced this phenomenon once before, Shen Xingyan seemed to understand what was happening. He quickly took out his star origin card and opened his attribute panel, finding that his primordial energy had reached 24 points, an increase of 1 point from the previous 23. At the same time, Dragon Elephant Fist had reached 20% progress, and Gale Step had increased by 15%, reaching 30% progress. Chapter 194. Seeing these attribute changes, Shen Xingyan naturally knew that these were all the results of Assassin 2 battles over the past few days. While feeling a bit regretful about the improvements brought by Assassin 2, he couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Assassin 2 has only hunted in the extraterritorial world for 5 days, and he's already gained so much. And this is just from killing disasters with low attributes. It's incredible. Following this line of reasoning, as my primordial energy increases in the future, their attributes will also grow stronger and stronger. In the future, they'll be able to kill higher-level disasters, even domain-level disasters. Won't the gains be even greater then? Shen Xingyan put away his star origin card with a sigh of emotion. As for what might happen in the future, he only thought about it briefly before dismissing it, thinking, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. You only know the final result by taking it one step at a time. Thinking this, he then activated his comprehension skill, using up all 24 points of primordial energy and entering a state of insight. At the same time, his insight value also increased to 20 points. Under this huge, almost enlightened improvement, the insight he gained from observing the transparent figure's movements in his mind became even greater. Although the current 20 insight points were only an increase of 1 insight point compared to yesterday. However, in Shen Xingyan's perception, it was vastly different, as if another layer of the blindfold over his eyes had been torn away, allowing him to see even more clearly. He understood the meaning conveyed by the transparent figure's movements more thoroughly. And this understanding was directly reflected in his body movements, while the power of balance also grew rapidly under these circumstances. An hour of insight passed, and the return of his insight value brought Shen Xingyan out of that state of insight. He steadied himself slightly, exhaling the fatigue caused by the large consumption of energy, and then checked the progress of the power of balance. He found that its increase was the same as during his daily training, with a tenfold weakening. Even so, the progress increased by 4% in that hour, bringing the total progress of level 10 power of balance to 13.6%. Not bad, not bad. Compared to before, this is a 44% progress increase, which is even better than the previous 36%. Tonight, I'll try to raise the power of balance progress to 20% and upgrade it within 5 days. I want to see what kind of phenomenon will occur after leveling up with such a significant progress reduction. Shen Xingyan murmured with a slight smile at the corner of his mouth. Afterwards, he continued to train for another hour and found that after this comprehension skill, his hourly training increase had risen by another 0.1%, reaching 0.9%. This increase was also roughly what he had expected. Seeing this, he relaxed his brow and chuckled softly. Being able to steadily improve like this every day, the progress will surely pick up again one day. Then, seeing that it was getting late, he directly used clone technique to generate Assassin 10, led him out of the tent, and strolled around leisurely. At this time, Shen Xingyan's appearance no longer attracted as much attention. Faced with the former campus celebrity, everyone seemed to instinctively want to keep a distance from him. Seeing everyone's reactions, Shen Xingyan appeared very depressed on the surface, but in reality, he was overjoyed, as he naturally wished for such a phenomenon. With a joyful mood, Shen Xingyan walked outside the safety zone and placed his clone. Just as he was about to go back, he heard an excited and teasing voice coming from behind him. Shen Xingyan, how did you know we'd be back at this time? You even came specifically to welcome us. Such a voice drifted into Shen Xingyan's ears from far away, and he immediately knew the owner of this voice was none other than Chu Wai, who had just returned. Hearing this, Shen Xingyan turned around in surprise and asked with a light laugh, "Why are you back so early today?" The bustling Chu Wai then urged Shen Xingyan to quickly return to the safety zone, while excitedly telling him about today's encounter. Our gains today were truly immense. Enough to boost our points significantly. That's why we came back early. The two talked as they returned to the safety zone. Only then did Chu Wai finally relax, happily showing Shen Xingyan the items in her hand. As soon as Shen Xingyan saw the items, he knew they had gone to the place his clone had scouted earlier. But he still feigned surprise and said, "This is a spirit mushroom that can permanently increase the upper limit of blood kai. Your harvest this time is indeed good." Yes, our luck was pretty good today. We killed a small Lord-level disaster today, and I didn't expect it to have a large pile of spirit mushrooms hidden behind it. Here, this one's for you. I still have a lot. Chu Wai said, as she tried to hand the spirit mushroom to Shen Xingyan, but how could he accept it? Shen Xingyan already knew how many spirit mushrooms were there. The quantity was probably only enough for one per person in their team. Chu Wai clearly wanted to give him her share, so how could Shen Xingyan accept it? So he quickly and firmly refused. "You should put it away quickly. I stay in the safety zone every day, so I don't need this. As a mage, it will be more helpful to you." At the same time, Shen Xingyan, who knew Chu Wai's personality, also showed a serious expression. Chu Wai instinctively wanted to continue to decline, but seeing Shen Xingyan's expression, she could only give up, pouting slightly with an unhappy look. Shen Xingyan had no choice but to change the subject. He shared the information he had read from Assassin 2 with Chu Wai. After all, it was the last 2 days of the trial, and he didn't want Chu Wai to encounter any problems. Chu Wai, whose topic had been changed, could only drop the matter. Listening quietly to Shen Xingyan's words, she looked at his aura of controlling the overall situation and his wise demeanor, which made her eyes sparkle with admiration. After they chatted for a while, Shen Xingyan watched Chu Wai and the others go to the registration office to record their points, and he also returned to his tent. Seeing that it was getting late, he ate a little, activated his scarecrow protection, and then directly entered the Star Origin world to begin his daily strawberry harvest. Chapter 195. Inside his profession space, Shen Xingyan checked the growth trend of the crops and the condition of the calves. Seeing that everything was operating normally, he felt very satisfied. He then walked over to an empty space nearby, called over Wang Kai, squatted down, and patted Wang Kai's shoulder with his right hand, saying, "Wang Kai, how about we summon another little brother starting today? Let your skeleton army quickly break 100. Shen Xingyan knew that Wang Kai's excitement about an increase in his subordinates was the same as his own, which was why he smiled and said this to him. The scene looked exactly like an adult trying to trick a child. Wang Kai, who had been summoned by his master for over a month, had already developed a rudimentary consciousness. And this simple consciousness was clearly very susceptible to such persuasion. When he heard his master say this, his little skeleton head began to nod rapidly. And a wave of excitement was transmitted through the conscious connection between him and Shen Xingyan. Shen Xingyan had known about this conscious bond for a long time. But because Wang Kai and the others' attributes were too weak before, this conscious bond was always indistinct and not very clear. However, as Wang Kai and the others' attributes grew higher, the clarity of the information expressed through this bond had greatly improved compared to the beginning. Seeing Wang Kai's reaction, Shen Xingyan naturally felt Wang Kai's emotions. He then chuckled softly and directly activated his talent skill in his mind. Suddenly, the empty space in front of Shen Xingyan began to vibrate violently. And because 7 little skeletons were summoned simultaneously, the commotion and range created were naturally far greater than before. Furthermore, as his talent skill improved, Shen Xingyan also clearly felt that the unknown incantation notes became more complex when casting the summoning skill. But with the influence of the talent skill, it did not affect his performance at all. Moreover, during the incantation, he also felt that he could now control the attributes and number of the skeletons summoned through his thoughts. For this, Shen Xingyan naturally went all out, maximizing the value of his talent skill. Soon, the slightly complex talent incantation was complete, and 7 strong little skeletons appeared before Shen Xingyan, all looking up at their master. Shen Xingyan's thoughts moved, and he checked the attributes of this new batch of skeletons' name. Little skeleton can be named master. Shen Xingyan race, undead skill, none strength, 7 points agility, 7 points physique, 7 points spirit, 7 points health, 70/70 points physical attack, 7 points spell attack, 7 points defense, 7 points speed, 7 points remarks, can perform various combat actions according to the summoner's instructions. When he saw that all the attributes of these little skeletons were 7 points, he couldn't help but nod lightly while thinking to himself, "Now I can summon up to 7 little skeletons at once." Compared to 1 or 2 before, the scene is much grander now, which makes me feel even better when casting skills. When I can summon hundreds or thousands of skeletons with a wave of my hand in the future, that scene should be quite shocking. I get excited just thinking about it now. But for such a scene to appear, it will take a considerable amount of time. And as long as I can persist and stay low until then, I will witness this moment sooner or later. Looking at the 7 little skeletons in front of him, Shen Xingyan's heroic spirit also rose. But he also knew that staying low and developing was the most important thing for him to do right now, and he became even more determined in this thought. With the skill cast, the total number of his little skeletons reached 94, leaving only 6 until his skeleton army reached 100, and he could achieve this milestone in just 1 day. Thinking of this, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but chuckle. He then handed the 7 newly summoned little skeletons to the somewhat excited Wang Kai for training. After waiting for a moment, he walked to the strawberry farmland that was about to be harvested and took out his novice staff. Wang Kai, who had quickly completed the training task, shook his skeleton head slightly after seeing his master's actions. And the other little skeletons began to consciously go to their assigned areas. Wang Kai assigned 20 little skeletons each to the mutated crops and the 2 acres of peony farmland, while 5 to 6 little skeletons stood in each of the remaining 6 acres of strawberry farmland. Wang Kai, Lei Fu, and Lei Jin, the 3 skeleton captains, were supervising nearby. As the skeleton labor force increased and their numbers grew, Wang Kai and the other two captains no longer needed to constantly work in the farmland, but instead focused more on overall command. Shen Xingyan was also somewhat satisfied seeing this scene. His original intention in setting up captains was to deal with situations like this, and now everything was progressing as he had envisioned. Seeing that the little skeletons were all in their positions, Shen Xingyan didn't delay. With a slight movement of his mind, he activated his first farmer skill. The primordial energy, always ready for use, began to condense at the tip of his staff, and at the same time, the star origin prompt appeared. Ding tilde, it is detected that you are casting a farmer skill on some crops that are about to mature. There is a possibility of failure when casting this skill on these crops. Do you wish to continue? Seeing this prompt, Shen Xingyan also let out a soft breath. Given the failure of his second farmer skill yesterday, he still had some reverence for the issue of probability. However, the previous failure had also made him feel much more at ease, because in his opinion, with his luck attribute bonus, the probability of continuous failure was very low. Nevertheless, he still silently prayed in his heart before directly confirming to continue. As he confirmed, the primordial energy condensed at the tip of the staff instantly covered all the farmland. The miraculous effect of the primordial energy, transformed by the first farmer skill, also began to slowly manifest in the farmland. Shen Xingyan, who had experienced this situation many times, was much calmer now compared to before. He just looked at the sky in front of him with a calm expression, a subtle ripple unconsciously rising in his heart while waiting for the results to be announced. After a few seconds, the star origin skill prompt appeared before his eyes as expected. Congratulations, you have successfully cast a farmer skill. Farmer experience +1. Seeing the successful skill prompt, Shen Xingyan's slightly suspended heart also relaxed, and his originally somewhat serious face now glowed with radiance. Chapter 196. Sure enough, under my luck value, the probability of failing twice in a row is unlikely to occur. However, it's also possible that the failure rate of my first skill was inherently low, and coupled with the luck value, that's why failures didn't occur so frequently. Never mind, as long as it succeeded, it's fine. After all, I can't control probability. Shen Xingyan analyzed with a hint of joy in his heart. He then temporarily put aside these thoughts, stretched his body slightly, and prepared to begin the upcoming harvest. Although he now had an overflow of skeleton laborers to help with the harvest, Shen Xingyan still preferred to do it himself, enjoying the feeling of abundance. The successful casting of the first professional skill brought about huge changes to all the farmlands, especially the 2 acres of peony farmlands, where the changes were most significant. After all, after the skill's effect, they had grown by 10 days, so it was reasonable for the initial changes to be dramatic. Shen Xingyan waited for more than 10 seconds until a ripe and ready to harvest prompt appeared above the farmland beneath his feet. Then he quickly began harvesting. At the same time, the maintenance work on other farmlands was taken over by a massive number of little skeletons. Under Wang Kai's overall command, the little skeletons worked without any hint of panic, fully illustrating what it meant to be methodical. In fact, if one observed closely, there was even a harmonious aesthetic to their work. After a few minutes, Shen Xingyan's joyful harvesting journey ended as the last strawberry plant was placed into his backpack space. At the same time, the Star Origin World's harvest prompt appeared before him. Congratulations! You planted 600 square meters of strawberry this time, with a harvest yield of 1360 kilograms, earning 8160 farmer professional experience points. Shen Xingyan, straightening up, couldn't help but smile when he saw this prompt. It was the smile of a successful harvest. 1360 kilograms, another increase of dozens of kilograms. My yield control is excellent. Seeing this harvest, Shen Xingyan was satisfied but also a little embarrassed. After all, each time he only needed an increase of dozens of kilograms to exchange for a record-breaking reward. If he thought about it from another perspective, he felt he was indeed a bit too greedy. Perhaps I should wait a bit longer next time, let the yield increase even more. Shen Xingyan couldn't help but think. Although he felt a bit embarrassed, he never thought of stopping his wool-gathering plan, at least not at this stage. The rewards were simply too generous, far exceeding what he harvested from farming. He estimated that he would only stop this behavior when the output of farmland crops exceeded the Xingyuan reward. While Shen Xingyan was thinking these less-than-sincere thoughts, his hands were not idle. He directly opened the Star Origin Mall. He sold all the agricultural products, strawberry and its branches and leaves, that had been separated in his backpack space, gaining a total of 5 gold, 731 silver, and 500 copper coins. The money in his wallet also changed to 7 gold, 262 silver, and 385 copper. Shen Xingyan merely glanced at the current money figure before closing the panel. He wasn't particularly concerned, emotionally. Daily harvests like this made him feel as if money was truly just a mere number now. He then instructed Wang Kai to call over some extra skeleton laborers to cultivate here and plant peonies. After he had arranged all of this, the Xingyuan record-breaking reward prompt slowly appeared, giving off a feeling of reluctance. Congratulations. You have once again broken your current record of 1335 kilograms of strawberry per acre, successfully achieving a result of 1360 kilograms. You are specially rewarded with an epic primal staff growable. Xingyuan will make a server-wide announcement. Do you wish to make the information public? Shen Xingyan, who had just finished his busy work, couldn't help but light up when he saw this prompt. This time the reward is equipment. And it's an epic-grade equipment that I've never seen or heard of, but why is it a staff? My novice staff is quite comfortable to use. Could it be that Star Origin World thinks it's a bit embarrassing for a level 20 professional like me to be using a novice staff all the time, so it rewarded me with one? But this staff doesn't seem to be of much use to me, does it? After all, as a life professional, no matter how much spell damage a staff adds, it's a bit of a waste. Although Shen Xingyan found this new reward somewhat novel, when he thought about its practicality, he shook his head slightly. But he still paid the 100 silver coins to cancel the announcement. No other reason than the lofty words epic. He couldn't let other people know that a farmer had obtained this item. And after he completed the payment, the Xingyuan prompt disappeared very cleanly, as if the slowly appearing prompt just now was not the same one. As a black light flashed across Shen Xingyan's eyes, a dark black staff appeared in his backpack space. Shen Xingyan was genuinely curious about the attributes of a weapon whose grade was not recorded in the data. He quickly opened his backpack space and, with a thought, took the ink-black staff into his hand. Its attributes then appeared before his eyes. Item: Primal Staff Epic Attributes. Physical attack plus 31 spell attack, plus 62 true damage, plus 20 spirit, plus 20 primordial energy recovery speed, plus 20% function. Disguise can change its appearance status. Bound note: can grow with the increase of Star Origin World Professional level. Current level, 20 can be synchronized for extraction. After extraction, its attributes will be fixed, with no durability limit. Shen Xingyan had originally looked at it with an appreciative gaze, but after seeing the staff's attributes, his eyes were filled only with shock. The attributes of this staff are too outrageous, and it can even grow with the professional level. It can even be extracted directly into the real world. This is too crazy. A high physical attack of 31 points, plus 20 points of true damage. Combined, these are equivalent to 51 points of strength attribute, which is basically not much different from my current attributes. And the increase in spell damage and spirit is, of course, ridiculously high. Such a staff is truly every mage's dream staff. It's terrifying. Chapter 197. Shen Xingyan looked at the staff's attributes. He was already deeply envious, and upon seeing the description that allowed extraction, he immediately wanted to extract this magnificent staff to the real world. After all, extracting it to the real world would be equivalent to gaining hundreds of attributes out of thin air. Such a high attribute boost was a huge temptation for him in reality. However, he ultimately stopped himself from this short-sighted idea. The description also stated that once extracted, the attributes would be fixed and would not strengthen further with the increase in star origin world rank. Extracting it would be tantamount to indirectly giving up the staff's upgradable function. And he, being confident in his future leveling progress, naturally wouldn't extract it now. The appearance of this equipment really made me understand what it means to compare people and die, and compare goods and discard them. In this era, people are truly inferior to equipment. The attributes boosted by a small staff are already equivalent to the results of many people's desperate efforts over many years. Shen Xingyan thought with some emotion, and at the same time, he didn't hesitate to equip it directly. As the first origin scepter was equipped, he suddenly felt a refreshing sensation in his mind, the unique feeling of the 4 major attributes increasing. This is the first time I've obtained equipment that can directly increase the 4 major attributes. I didn't expect it to feel like this. A 20-point increase in mental attributes is much more comfortable than leveling up myself. Amazing. And through this equipment, I also learned that there's an epic rank before perfect. Since the primordial energy outbreak over 100 years ago, no one has been able to obtain an epic item. Now, I've actually obtained one. It's truly a cause for sighing. Shen Xingyan enjoyed the feeling, sighing with emotion. He then checked the attributes that had changed due to this weapon: Spirit, 69 physical attack, 88 spell attack, 134 true damage. 20. Seeing that his spell attack had reached triple digits, yet he had no means of spell attack, he couldn't help but smile wryly. Due to the staff, a true damage attribute has appeared on the attribute panel. It seems that what isn't displayed on the attribute panel doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't exist. It just hasn't met the conditions for display yet. As Shen Xingyan thought this, he walked towards the ranch. Upon reaching the ranch, he temporarily set aside his thoughts, gently shaking the black staff in his hand. He silently chanted, then directly cast his second professional skill on the 10 calves. 10 points of primordial energy smoothly passed through the novice staff and acted upon the calves. Its smooth operation surprised Shen Xingyan, who was used to the novice staff. This feel is quite good. Compared to the novice staff has improved a lot in both reaction speed and fluidity. No wonder those combat professionists prefer weapons that match their rank. It's not just about attributes, it must also include the weapon's compatibility. Shen Xingyan thought to himself as he felt the casting process. He then looked at the 10 calves that had started to moo, patiently waiting for the final result. However, the scene that followed was very similar to yesterday's. The 10 calves mooed for a while and then stopped moving, which gave Shen Xingyan a bad feeling. Then the star origin prompt confirmed his feeling. Unfortunately, your professional skill casting failed. Farmer experience +1. Seeing this prompt, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but smile bitterly, shaking his head slightly with a sigh. And thinking to himself, is this 20% mutation probability really that low? And this is even with the blessing of the luck attribute, completely different from the probability on my farmland. However, this also indirectly proves that the probability on my farmland should be quite high. Shen Xingyan merely sighed at this failed result and quickly recovered his mood. After all, his current focus was on the farmland. Even if the ranch succeeded, it would only be icing on the cake, its value completely incomparable to the farmland, so he didn't pay much attention to it. He only hoped that as his luck attribute increased in the future, this probability would give him a surprise. He then patted a few calves and whispered, 2 failures in a row. I wonder if my 3rd consecutive failure will happen with you all. Muttering to himself, he left the ranch. Lying in the spot where he had slept before, he waited a few minutes until Wang Kai and the others finished planting the peonies. After recording the completion time, he returned directly to the real world. After all, it was still early, and he still had to continue training his equilibrium force. Shen Xingyan, whose consciousness had returned to his body in the real world, slowly opened his eyes. After observing his surroundings, he stood up directly. After briefly checking the status of the 8 clones' perspectives in his mind, He was about to start training when he was attracted by one of the perspective screens. At this moment, from the perspective of Assassin No. 4, a large group of disasters were swarming in one direction, including some Lord-level disasters. Based on the information Shen Xingyan had gathered during this period, he knew that these disasters' activity range was basically within his area. They would only cross boundaries for combat or predation. Otherwise, they generally operated within their respective territories. But now, with so many disasters migrating, it was clearly not for these reasons. This made him somewhat confused. Instinctively feeling that something was wrong, he had Assassin No. 4 abandon hunting disasters. He also had him transform into a low-attribute disaster and follow them to see what was going on. After issuing this command, Shen Xingyan temporarily stopped paying attention to the screen in his perspective and immediately began training. After training for 5 hours, his equilibrium force skill progress also increased by 4.5%, reaching a total progress of 19%. Seeing that he was only 1% away from his set goal, Shen Xingyan chose not to rest and continued to train for over an hour, raising it to 20% before finally stopping. He then checked Assassin No. 4's perspective again, seeing that he had stopped moving and a large number of disasters had gathered around, divided according to their attribute levels, and Assassin No. 4, due to his appearance, stood with some other low-attribute disasters. Chapter 198. Is this a meeting of disasters? Shen Xingyan wondered, looking at the scene through the Assassin No. 4's perspective. However, unusual occurrences often signify something sinister. Out of an instinctive worry, he watched for a while longer, but the scene remained quiet, without any extra movements or sounds, which prevented him from discovering anything amiss. Somewhat hesitant, he could only have the Assassin No. 4 stand guard there and send him a message if anything unusual happened. Anyway, after several days of hunting, the Assassin No. 4's internal origin reserves were sufficient for him to exist for a considerable time, so Shen Xingyan didn't have to worry about his sudden disappearance. Subsequently, his consciousness connected to his star origin card, and he entered the star origin world. At this time, after a day of equilibrium force training, his energy was severely depleted. As soon as he arrived in the profession space, he immediately began origin energy cultivation, and his entire being quickly entered a state of deep sleep. With deep rest and the rapid replenishment from the small particles, both his energy and primordial energy limit were recovering and increasing rapidly. The biggest contributor to this was the mutated crop. After Shen Xingyan's 7 skill accelerations, the mutated crop was now emitting a far greater number of particles than before. Approximately 10 times the amount Shen Xingyan had previously absorbed. This also greatly accelerated Shen Xingyan's primordial energy growth rate. Simultaneously, as the light green small particles increased and merged into Shen Xingyan's consciousness, the potential of his physical body in the real world also became increasingly profound. During this origin energy cultivation, 5 hours passed in the blink of an eye. The time reached just past 6 in the morning, and Shen Xingyan awoke from his meditative state. Although he had only rested for a short 5 hours, because the rest was in the star origin world, which offered an energy recovery bonus. Coupled with the improvement in his mental attribute in the real world, his overall mental state had returned to normal. If it weren't for the time being rather urgent, 6 hours of sleep would have allowed him to be in an even better state. Upon waking, he quickly checked the results of this origin energy cultivation. He found that compared to yesterday's 0.3 primal energy factor, this training increased it by 0.5, reaching 0.8. Calculating it, his average primordial energy increase per hour had once again risen, reaching 0.1. Seeing this, Shen Xingyan sat up and looked at the mutated crop, clearly knowing that it was the cause of everything. Calculated, this mysterious mutated crop, through natural growth and skill calculations, has already grown for nearly 78 days. If I use my professional skill 2 more times, plus 2 days of natural growth, its 100-day growth cycle will be complete. I wonder what kind of harvest it will give me then. As Shen Xingyan thought, he stood up and walked over to the mutated crop, squatting down to examine it carefully. He found that despite having grown for over 70 days, the mutated crop was still the height of wheat. And its branches and leaves vaguely resembled a tree, with no other significant changes. He then checked the information of the mutated crop, finding that it still displayed only basic information, just as before. Unable to understand this, Shen Xingyan could only temporarily give up thinking, call Wang Kai over. Instruct it to take good care of the area, and then directly return to the real world. However, just as his consciousness returned to his body, before he even opened his eyes, he received a flurry of messages from the assassin No. 4. Looking at the large amount of information, all expressing the same event, Shen Xingyan was so shocked that he suddenly stood up, his eyes revealing an expression of disbelief. The disasters are going to riot and attack the base. Last night's gathering of disasters really was a meeting, but it was a pre-battle mobilization meeting. Upon receiving this information, Shen Xingyan quickly directed his attention to the assassin No. 4's perspective. He saw that the assassin No. 4 was currently following a vast horde of disasters, including many domain-level disasters and countless lord-level disasters. They were all advancing together towards the 6th base, based on the information transmitted by the assassin No. 4 and his current location. Shen Xingyan deduced that although their safety zone was not on the direct path of advance, it would still be severely affected. Moreover, once the battle began, their location would no longer be safe. This disaster riot, involving domain-level disasters, was clearly not something that newly awakened professional could handle. The most urgent task was to inform the teachers and quickly end the trial to return to the base. With a furrowed brow, Shen Xingyan thought, and was about to leave the tent to spread the news. But he retracted his raised foot, thinking to himself, if I directly spread this news, I might expose myself. After all, how would a farmer professional like me know about this? He wouldn't be able to explain it. There's no other way. It seems I'll have to sacrifice my clone. Thinking this, Shen Xingyan didn't bother with regret and quickly used his clone technique, instantly teleporting out with the newly appeared clone. Then, he had the clone transform into another trial participant's appearance. Holding the token for entering and exiting the formation, and somewhat frantically rushed into the safety zone, shouting loudly, "This is bad, this is bad. A large group of domain-level disasters are attacking. Tiki teacher, there are so many disasters attacking from that direction." At this moment, the clone pretended to be in a state of panic, and upon seeing the teachers guarding the safety zone, he immediately cried out mournfully. It was morning, the time when people in the safety zone were waking up, and the clone's wailing voice echoed through the quiet safety zone. The trial participants from the Central District and Northern District, who had just woken up, suddenly heard this news and quickly emerged from their tents to see what was happening. Some non-combat life professional, upon hearing the news, began to panic, their hearts starting to pound in fear. I thought this was just a free tour of the extraterritorial world, but I never expected to encounter something like this. How unlucky. No, I need to get back quickly. Is it real or fake? Didn't they say that the disasters in this area had been mostly cleared before we came? How could there still be domain-level disasters? It must be a rumor. Better safe than sorry. I don't want to lose my life here. My future can't be cut short just as it begins. Chapter 199. At this time, most people were within the safety zone, and upon hearing the news, they began to emerge from their tents, moving towards the commotion while discussing it loudly. As those who had only recently undergone their awakening, their outlook on the future was very high. Especially for those trial participants who had awakened combat professions. They all felt they were children of destiny and did not wish to sacrifice themselves in vain. And the teachers, who had initially thought the clone was just making a fuss, couldn't help but take it seriously after seeing the reactions of so many students. Facing the current situation, even if the news eventually proved to be a lie, they still had to provide a verified response. After all, students from 2 districts, including those precious darlings from the Central District, were participating in this trial. If something were to happen due to their negligence, the consequences would be more than their Northern District school could bear. Seeing this, the teachers responsible for protection quickly began to calm everyone down, while also sending a few of the fastest teachers to the direction indicated by the clone to check the specific situation. As the impact of this matter expanded, it also alarmed a large number of the prodigy's escorts, which naturally included Han Ningxuang's guardian. A disaster riot. I didn't even detect anything like this, so how was a mere trial participant able to sense it? The middle-aged woman, who had been chosen as Han Ningxuang's guardian due to her keen spiritual senses, was somewhat dismissive at this time. Believing it was just a false alarm, but out of duty, she also frantically extended her senses towards that direction. However, upon realizing that such a situation indeed existed, she quickly discarded her previous nonchalance, her mood becoming solemn and her brows furrowed involuntarily. It really is a disaster riot. If I hadn't specifically checked, I wouldn't have discovered it at all. There's a domain disaster among the disasters that knows how to conceal its aura. But at such a long distance, a trial participant couldn't possibly have come to report it so quickly. This trial participant is suspicious. It seems I'll have to investigate this person thoroughly when I get back. While the middle-aged woman was feeling curious, on the other side, the clone was also being questioned by a teacher. Student, do you know that if you falsely report information without cause and cause panic, the consequences can be very severe? Not something an ordinary person can bear. One of the teachers, seeing the clone's unfamiliar face, thought it was some mischievous child from the Northern District, so he sternly warned him. But how could the clone be intimidated by him? Under Shen Xingyan's command, he insisted there was indeed a disaster riot, and with actor-level acting, he pretended to be so scared that his whole body trembled. And when the teacher asked him how he discovered it, he even showed a convulsive reaction from fright, directly fainting. The people around, seeing such a timid fellow, were helpless. They couldn't just wake him up by hitting him and continue asking questions after he fainted. Moreover, if the matter eventually proved to be untrue, they would at most give a minor punishment as a warning, making him a joke for everyone. But if the final result proved to be true, then this fellow would be considered a minor hero, and it would be impossible to treat him roughly. However, the current commotion also alarmed the chief, in charge of the safety zone. Moving at a speed almost like teleportation, he suddenly appeared here. His brows tightly furrowed as he looked towards the direction from which the disaster was approaching, saying calmly yet resolutely, "No need to investigate further. A disaster has indeed rioted. This trial is declared over. Immediately notify everyone to evacuate quickly. For those children not in the safety zone, swiftly locate them via their wristbands." It's fortunate that this student notified us in time, otherwise, we wouldn't have such ample time for evacuation. The chief in charge, a sword master, while arranging various matters concerning the evacuation, also paused his gaze on the fainted clone, feeling the same doubts as others, and at the same time, a surge of curiosity about the clone. And while everyone was in a state of panic, Shen Xingyan, who had teleported back into his tent, began to restore his primordial energy. And at the same time, charged the scarecrow, preparing for any unexpected situations that might arise during the upcoming evacuation. While performing these actions, Shen Xingyan observed and analyzed the current situation through the new clone's perspective. Everything is progressing smoothly so far. All personnel should be evacuated soon. Judging from the current position and speed of the disaster army, there is still ample time for evacuation preparations, so there's no rush here for now. However, there is one problem that needs to be solved. The token for entering and exiting the safety zone is still with the clone. When the clone's existence time is up, I can't expose myself just for a token. Thinking this, Shen Xingyan also thought of a remedial measure in his mind. He had the fainted clone subtly bury the token beneath him. When the chaotic evacuation happens later, I'll go retrieve it. This matter can be considered done. Shen Xingyan thought to himself, feeling relieved. Shen Xingyan also felt somewhat helpless about having to go to such great lengths just to report a danger. There's no other way. Who told me I have so many secrets? As Shen Xingyan arranged everything, the outside began to grow chaotic. Those with temporary spatial abilities were fine. They packed their belongings very quickly. But it was tough for the poor like Shen Xingyan. While frantically packing, they couldn't help but lament. While Shen Xingyan was packing, Chu Wai burst in impetuously. Seeing Shen Xingyan, who had already woken up and was packing, she finally relaxed. Shen Xingyan, don't worry about unimportant things. You pack first. I'll go check on the other team members. After you're done packing, stay here and wait for me. With that, Chu Wai quickly ran out. She was afraid her team members might miss the evacuation because they were sleeping, so she had to go notify them one by one. As Shen Xingyan stepped out of the tent and watched Chu Wai's hurried figure, a warmth rose in his heart. At this time, most people were only looking out for themselves, because they didn't know if the disaster would appear here the next moment. People like Chu Wai, who were still concerned about their team members, were indeed rare. At this moment, he also detected the information that the clone was being moved by the base personnel. While everyone else's attention was on the clone, he also imitated Chu Wai's actions, quickly running around within the safety zone. He pretended to notify classmates he was close with, and inadvertently passed by the place where the token was hidden. As his mental energy locked onto the token, he instantly collected it into his spatial storage. Afterward, he symbolically notified a few classmates, then went to the tent to wait for Chu Wai. Chapter 200. As Chu Wai and her squad members arrived, the group quickly moved towards the vehicles. At this moment, it seemed as if everyone in the safety zone had gathered here, enveloped by fear. They wanted to quickly get on the vehicles and return to the base. And as for Shen Xingyan, who was very clear about the time the disaster would strike, although he pretended to be panicked on the surface, he was very calm inside, symbolically pushed a few times, and then waited in place for coordinated arrangements. Make way, our central district people haven't gotten on yet. What are you rushing for? All of you move back. At this moment, an extremely loud voice rang out in the crowd, its tone full of arrogant and unruly attitude, as if stating something perfectly normal. The people from the central district had not anticipated this situation. According to their plan, the airship was not supposed to arrive until tomorrow. Even if they temporarily called the airship over, it would be too late, so they could only take the North District's vehicles back to the base. However, the North District students, who had long been fed up with these people, retorted without politeness upon hearing this. Why should you get on first? Why don't you take your airship? Go back the way you came, understand? The North District students, also combat professionists, were in their hot-blooded youth. Yet they did not feel inferior to others, all believing their future was full of infinite possibilities. Under the stimulation of this emotion, they felt very displeased with the Central District's behavior of participating in trials, flying back and forth by airship. Coupled with the arrogant remarks of that person just now, it immediately became a fuse, making the quarrel between the two sides more intense, and the scene became even more chaotic. Fortunately, the sword master in charge was present at the scene, with a single thought. Everyone simultaneously felt a pressure on their bodies, as if their bodies had suddenly become much heavier. Is this the domain power that combat professionists can unlock when they reach level 50? If this power were to increase several times, I would probably struggle to move and become easy prey. In actual combat, it's terrifying. Shen Xingyan in the crowd naturally also felt this pressure. Based on his previous understanding, he naturally guessed the origin of this power and knew that the advanced combat professionists were starting to control the situation. With the appearance of this power, the previously noisy scene fell silent. At this moment, the sword master in charge began to speak. all of you, get on the vehicles one by one according to the guide's instructions. If there's any more chaos like just now, none of you will leave. Let this wave of disaster be your final trial." The words of the advanced sword master clearly had a great effect, as no one would doubt what an advanced combat professional said. Seeing the scene become orderly, the guides in front of the vehicles also began their work. However, during the subsequent allocation, due to the inclusion of Central District personnel, the originally spacious compartments became crowded. What angered Chu Wai even more was that Shen Xingyan was not assigned to the same compartment as her. But now, during a hurried retreat, she only reminded Shen Xingyan to be careful before getting on the vehicle, feeling somewhat dejected. Shen Xingyan didn't mind this. He could return to the base in at most 1 or 2 hours, and even if he didn't have a vehicle, he could easily return to the base with his teleportation skill, completely without worrying about safety. Following the subsequent allocation by the guides, Shen Xingyan was the first to get on the second vehicle, found a random spot, and sat down in a somewhat lazy state, looking like, "I'm a life professional. I've already given up on myself." Pretending to be indifferent, he closed his eyes to rest after sitting down, but what was originally just a brief rest turned into actual sleep. In his sleep, he felt a pleasant fragrance coming from beside him, which made his sleep even more comfortable. However, with the arrival of this fragrance, the compartment, which should have been incredibly noisy and full of complaints, gradually became quiet. This made Shen Xingyan, who suddenly realized this anomaly in his sleep, slowly open his eyes, still somewhat groggy. When he subconsciously looked towards the source of the fragrance, he suddenly found a cold and stunningly beautiful woman sitting beside him. This beauty and aura made him subconsciously move to the side. Looking up at the people around him again, he saw them all looking at him with expressions of watching a good show. At this moment, Shen Xingyan instantly felt a million alpacas stampeding through his heart. "God, you're messing with me, aren't you? I just let my guard down for a moment, and you arranged this scene for me. Are you afraid I'll live too long and bother you?" This woman, at first glance, is a prodigy from the Central District. Even if she's not a prodigy, she must be a campus belle. Her admirers must be swarming. If I sit this close to her, wouldn't the attention that had originally decreased start to rise again? Why does what I fear always happen? The luck value, synchronized to the real world, really isn't necessary here. Shen Xingyan thought this to himself, and his body very consciously got up quickly, wanting to stand outside, and used his eyes to signal to other classmates that he could switch places with them. However, upon seeing Shen Xingyan's gaze, the people around him quickly looked away. Their meaning very clear. They only wanted to watch the show and did not want to switch places with him. Seeing this situation, after a bitter smile, Shen Xingyan naturally did not give up. Adhering to the idea that no one could stop his low-key pace, he directly flashed past the woman without explanation, forcefully squeezed into the crowd, and showed an appearance of desperately avoiding the woman in front of him. After doing this, Shen Xingyan also breathed a sigh of relief, thinking, "Doing this can also make those admirers who know about this feel better while reducing my presence." And this woman, whom everyone feared and avoided, was, as Shen Xingyan guessed, indeed the prodigy and campus belle of the Central District, Han Ningxuang. Han Ningxuang had a slight curiosity about the man next to her, who was so carefree that he dared to sleep in such a situation. Moreover, she had never observed a boy up close like this since she was little. Just as she was feeling somewhat curious, she saw this boy suddenly wake up, and his subsequent actions made her feel deeply disliked. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more updates and new uploads.